Some mysteries do not whisper from forgotten pages of history. They echo unresolved across centuries. They appear in monuments untouched by time, in symbols carved before memory began, in disappearances that defy logic, and in discoveries that challenge everything we think we know about our world and our place in it. Why do ancient civilizations share the same architectural ideas across oceans long before ships could cross them? Who engineered structures in Egypt, Peru, and Palestine with uncanny precision, using knowledge science still struggles to explain? What secrets sleep beneath the ice of Antarctica, or beneath deserts where entire cities vanish without a trace? History is not a straight line. It bends, folds, and hides its truths in shadows, and every answer we uncover only leads to deeper questions. Tonight, we journey into the unknown, not to invent legends, but to confront the greatest enigmas humanity has ever faced. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of history's biggest mysteries, finally brought into the light. Beneath the rolling surface of the Atlantic, where sunlight fades into endless blue and the water grows calm and ancient, legends say a city once glittered. A world of soaring pillars, shimmering temples, and knowledge far beyond its time, a place where architecture met philosophy, where science and spirituality walked hand in hand, a place called Atlantis. The first written whispers of this lost civilization come from one man, the philosopher Plato, writing in the 4th century BC. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he speaks of an island empire beyond the Pillars of Heracles, a land rich in wisdom and power. Its people, according to him, mastered engineering, governance, and technology so advanced it defies what we know of the ancient world. Yet they also embodied human ambition and the terrible fall that follows when greatness turns to hubris. Plato described Atlantis not merely as a city, but as a model civilization. Magnificent harbours, rings of land and water carved in perfect symmetry, bridges and canals stretching across a metropolis built with mathematical harmony, a thriving maritime empire ruling over lands as far as the Mediterranean, including ancient Egypt and the lands we now call Greece. And then in a single catastrophic moment, the earth shook, the sea rose, and the city sank in a single day and night of misfortune. Was Plato recounting distant memories or crafting a philosophical warning? Scholars remain divided. Most historians argue Atlantis was a metaphor, a story designed to illustrate the dangers of greed and power, a cautionary tale woven into timeless philosophy. They point to the lack of ancient records beyond Plato's writings. No maps, no inscriptions, no ruins confident enough to confirm its existence. Yet the mystery endures, not because of certainty, but because of possibility. If Atlantis was real, where could it have been? Some theories point to the Greek island of Santorini, once home to the advanced Minoan civilization. Around 1600 BC, a volcanic eruption devastated the island, collapsing part of it into the sea and sending towering waves across the Aegean. A flourishing culture sophisticated in trade, art and engineering was abruptly shattered. The timeline fits Plato's story loosely. The destruction matches, and the region was known for its ornate architecture and maritime dominance. Others look west toward the Atlantic itself. Could Atlantis lie beneath the waters off Spain near Cadiz? Archaeologists have discovered ancient stone structures in the marshlands of Dinana National Park, remnants of a settlement that once existed before tidal waves devastated the region thousands of years ago. Were these echoes of a forgotten coastal empire, or simply the ruins of a lost local culture swallowed by nature, not myth? Some point to the Azores, those volcanic islands rising dramatically from the Atlantic. Their rugged peaks suggest a land torn by seismic forces. Deep beneath the surrounding ocean, sonar scans have revealed unexplained formations, perhaps natural, perhaps not. Could these islands be the last visible fragments of a once mighty continent? And then there are theories that push the boundary further still. Some researchers propose Atlantis may have been connected to a prehistoric global civilization, one predating recorded history. They highlight megalithic sites across the world in Egypt, Peru, Turkey, and the ancient lands near Palestine, asking how distant cultures developed strikingly similar architectural techniques, astronomical alignments, and mythic memories of a great flood and a lost advanced people. Others suggest Atlantis could lie beneath the Antarctic ice, referencing ancient maps that depict landforms under the frozen continent long before modern discovery. Or they point to submerged structures in the Caribbean off the coasts of Cuba and the Bahamas, where divers have filmed geometric formations deep underwater, their origins still debated. But with each new idea, more questions emerge. If Atlantis truly existed, how advanced was its society? If its people held knowledge lost to time, where did it come from? And if a vast empire fell so suddenly, what does that say about our own world? Vulnerable to forces we sometimes understand only faintly. Tectonics, climate, the cyclical rise and collapse of civilizations. For now, Atlantis remains suspended between history and imagination, anchored by a philosopher's words, shaped by fragments of archaeology, and stretched by human curiosity. It is not merely a place in myth, but an idea that perhaps the past holds chapters of our story still hidden, sealed beneath ocean and earth, waiting for the right moment or the right discovery to surface. So we continue searching in ruins and reefs, in seabeds and scrolls, wondering whether Atlantis was pure allegory or a memory of something real, something extraordinary lost to the tides of time. And somewhere, beneath the waves, in the silence where continents once shifted and civilizations dreamed, the unanswered question lingers. What if we have only uncovered the beginning of what lies beneath? And as we leave the submerged echoes of Atlantis behind, drifting from ancient seas to distant shores, we arrive at a quieter mystery. One not buried beneath oceans or wrapped in ancient mythology, but rooted in the early chapters of the New World. A story carved into wood, whispered through forests and marked by a single haunting word left behind on the edge of an unknown continent. Roanoke. Along the windswept coastline of what is now North Carolina, gentle waves wash against sandy shores and marsh grass bends in the Atlantic breeze. It is peaceful here, calm, almost timeless. But beneath this serene landscape lies one of the most enduring mysteries in American history, the disappearance of an entire colony lost without trace. In 1587, more than a century after explorers first crossed the Atlantic, over 100 English settlers established a small community on Roanoke Island. They dreamed of a new life, a foothold for England in a vast and unfamiliar land. Families, craftsmen and farmers travelled with hope, believing they were part of something permanent, something destined to grow. But the world they entered was harsh, uncertain, and deeply unfamiliar. Supplies dwindled, relations with native tribes shifted between uneasy cooperation and rising tension. And when the colony's governor, John White, sailed back to England for provisions, he expected to return within months. Instead, war in Europe delayed him for 3 long years. When White finally returned in 1590, he found silence. Houses dismantled, fortifications gone, no bodies, no signs of struggle, only an abandoned settlement, and a message carved into a weathered post. Crowan, no other writing, no plea for help, no explanation. The letters were clear, deliberate, yet entirely enigmatic. Where did they go? Mainstream historians offer several possibilities. The most widely accepted theory suggests the colonists integrated peacefully with nearby indigenous groups, perhaps the Croatian tribe, whose name echoed in the carving. Oral histories from some tribes later referenced Europeans living among them, and archaeological discoveries have revealed European tools and pottery at native sites. Others believe the settlers may have moved inland toward the Chesapeake, seeking better land and safer alliances. There are clues here too. Reports from later English expeditions describing villages where some inhabitants spoke English words or possessed European features, yet nothing definitively ties those accounts to the Roanoke colonists. Then there are darker possibilities. Some speculate the colonists met their end through conflict or disease, their remains lost to time and nature. The region was volatile in those early years, and survival was far from guaranteed. And yet the absence of physical evidence fuels the mystery. Still, more speculative theories stretch further. Some suggest a sudden evacuation due to a powerful storm or rising tides, perhaps a hurricane cutting off their escape. Others wonder whether they ventured deeper into the continent in search of resources or refuge, disappearing into the wilderness and slowly becoming indistinguishable from the people they lived among. There are even more fringe theories. Tales of supernatural forces, vanished settlements, or secret voyages north or south. Stories that speak less to documented evidence and more to the human tendency to fill silence with imagination when history offers no clear answers. But perhaps the most intriguing question is this: why leave deliberately dismantling structures instead of abandoning them? That detail suggests planning, not panic. Movement, not disappearance in the night. Some archaeologists propose the colonists may have split into smaller groups. If so, traces could still lie hidden beneath soil, forest, or farmland, scattered fragments waiting to be uncovered. Across centuries, the word carved at Roanoke has become more than a clue. It is a symbol, a final message from a community stepping into the unknown, choosing survival or destiny over certainty, leaving only letters chiseled in wood for history to decipher. Today, the island remains quiet. Visitors walk forest trails, hear distant birds, and feel a gentle wind roll off the Atlantic. It is peaceful, yes, but if you listen closely, the silence carries weight. It feels like a pause, as though the land itself remembers a chapter we cannot read. Somewhere, perhaps buried beneath coastal sands or within tribal memory, lies the truth of what happened to the lost colony. Until it surfaces, we are left with a carved word and an open question, a reminder that not all mysteries rest in ancient ruins or distant oceans. Some are written in plain sight in simple letters, waiting patiently for the world to finally understand what they meant. And so the question remains, quiet but persistent. When a colony vanishes without a trace, do we uncover the truth in time, or does history simply learn to live with its ghosts? And just as the forests of Roanoke leave us with whispers and carved letters, we turn now from a mystery lost to nature to one carved boldly in stone, defying time itself. A mystery not hidden, but towering above the sands, staring back at us across more than 4,000 years. Rising from the golden desert near the edge of the Nile, the pyramids of Egypt stand silent and immense beneath a sun that has watched civilizations rise and fall. The Great Pyramid of Giza, solid, angular, unwavering, casts a shadow across the plateau as wind sweeps through the ancient stones. It is a monument to human ingenuity and to questions we still cannot fully answer. Around 2500 BC, in the age of the pharaoh Khufu, the Egyptians achieved something unprecedented. More than 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing as much, as a small truck, were quarried, transported, and placed with astonishing precision. The base is nearly perfect in alignment with the cardinal directions. Each side stretches over 750 feet. The structure once gleamed white, sheathed in polished casing stones that reflected the desert sun. How, with no steel tools, no advanced machinery, and no wheels capable of hauling such loads, did they do it? Mainstream archaeology gives us part of the story. Skilled labourers, not enslaved masses as once believed, lived in organised workers' villages nearby. Evidence shows they ate well, rotated shifts, and were honoured in death, buried near the very structures they built. Ingenious methods likely included sleds dragged across sand dampened with water, ramps of various shapes and configurations, and a workforce coordinated by an advanced administrative system. Excavations reveal copper chisels, stone hammers, and remains of workshops where blocks were shaped with remarkable consistency. We see the traces of a society capable not only of spiritual devotion, but of complex logistics and planning. And yet, even with what we know, questions linger. The precision remains extraordinary. The Great Pyramid is aligned so closely to true north that even modern instruments marvel at the accuracy. Its internal chambers are cut with architectural skill unmatched for millennia. The geometry, angles, lengths, and ratios appears to reflect mathematical knowledge that would not formally emerge in later civilizations until much later. How did they achieve such perfection? Did they possess a deeper understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering than we assume? Or were their achievements the result of relentless labour, discipline, and tradition, refined over generations, now misunderstood through the lens of time? Some researchers point to the stars, noting that the pyramid's layout may align with key constellations, particularly Orion. Others observe the structure's relationship to the cardinal directions and solstices, suggesting a symbolic connection between earth and sky, life and eternity. Whether intentional or coincidental, the alignment fuels speculation about the sophistication of ancient Egyptian cosmology. More unconventional theories go further. Some suggest lost technologies, not necessarily machines, but knowledge, techniques of stone cutting, transport, and architectural measurement now forgotten. Others wonder if a civilization predating Egypt, perhaps one hinted at in myths of great floods and forgotten epics, passed wisdom forward through time. A few even speculate that the pyramids might encode scientific or astronomical information, serving not just as tombs, but as time capsules of ancient understanding. Energy theories, acoustic properties, or geomagnetic anomalies surface in fringe discussions. Ideas outside mainstream science, yet persistent in public imagination. And still the mainstream view holds steady. That brilliant architecture, religious, devotion, organised labour, and an advanced administrative system, not lost civilizations, built these wonders. It is a narrative grounded in archaeology and supported by the traces left in stone and soil. Yet the fascination doesn't fade. Perhaps it isn't simply the engineering that captivates us, it is the feeling they evoke, the sense of standing in front of something that transcends time, something created by the hands not unlike ours, yet guided by vision and capability that feel almost unreachable today. The pyramids are reminders that the ancient world was not primitive but profound, that humans, long before electricity and steel, reached heights we still struggle to fully comprehend, and that history does not always reveal all its answers easily. As the desert wind brushes against the stones and the light shifts across the timeless facade, we are left with the quiet hum of a truth both simple and unsettling. We know much about how the pyramids were built, and yet not quite enough. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not in the stones, but in the knowledge lost between then and now, knowledge buried like the pharaohs themselves, waiting for a moment or a discovery to rise again beneath the desert sun. And from the scorching sands of ancient Egypt, where mysteries are carved in stone beneath an unending sun, we move now into a very different world. A world not of grand monuments or distant millennia, but of narrow streets, gaslit fog, and a darkness that clings not to earth or architecture, but to human nature itself. London, 138. And in the early morning hours, the streets of Whitechapel lie still beneath a veil of cold mist. Cobblestones glisten with recent rain. Lamps flicker weakly against the creeping fog, and footsteps echo through deserted alleys where shadows stretch thin and long. The city is alive yet uneasy, as though the night itself is holding its breath. For here, in this cramped and struggling corner of Victorian London, an unseen figure once moved silently. A figure whose crimes would shake the empire, grip newspapers across the world, and haunt history ever since. Jack the Ripper. 5 women murdered with brutality that shocked even a city accustomed to hardship and violence. Their names, Marianne Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Street, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, written now not in scandal but in solemn remembrance. Victims whose stories were once overshadowed by the myth that followed their deaths. Their lives were real and their killer still unknown. We know the facts, at least the ones history can verify. In the fall of 1888, a series of murders occurred within tight geography and time frame. Police patrols intensified. Newspapers erupted with speculation, and fear swept through London. Letters signed by Jack the Ripper reached authorities and journalists, though whether the real killer wrote them remains uncertain. Some may have been taunts from a disturbed mind, others perhaps hoaxes feeding a hungry public captivated by terror. Investigators worked tirelessly examining crime scenes by lantern light, collecting testimony from frightened residents, comparing notes in cramped police offices thick with tobacco smoke. Yet the tools of forensic analysis were young, and the fog of rumour, myth, and sensational reporting clouded the truth. Who was Jack the Ripper? Mainstream theories suggest he may have been a local resident, someone familiar with Whitechapel's twisting streets and hidden courtyards, a butcher, perhaps a doctor or medical student with knowledge of anatomy, a tradesman who blended easily into the urban orchestra of labour and survival. Police reports reference suspects: Montague Druitt, a troubled barrister; Aaron Kosminski, a barber, suffering from severe mental illness; George Chapman, later revealed as a poisoner. Each theory has supporters and contradictions. No single story fits comfortably without loose ends. As decades passed, new possibilities emerged. Some historians point to journal entries and letters tied to businessmen, aristocrats, or even artists. Others examine social and political tensions of the era: poverty, migration, policing failure, fears, and a society on the edge of modernity, suggesting the Ripper was less a figure of sinister genius and more a symptom of systemic strain. More speculative theories stretch further. Still, tales of royal conspiracies, secret societies, and hidden medical scandals appear in books and documentaries. Stories linking the crimes to occult practices, coded messages, or clandestine networks persist in fringe circles. Some suggest the Ripper left London, continuing his acts elsewhere under different names. Others argue he may have disappeared into anonymity, his identity buried with him in unmarked earth. No theory has been proven, no confession ever confirmed, no face definitively matched to the shadow. Modern forensic attempts, DNA analysis on artifacts, digital reconstruction, psychological profiling have brought flashes of possibility but not certainty. Letters stain with time, objects pass through countless hands, and evidence older than 130 years remains elusive. And perhaps that is why the mystery endures, not because it is unsolvable, but because each new answer invites another question, because somewhere between fact and folklore, between analysis and imagination, the truth remains concealed, just out of reach. The fog of Whitechapel has long lifted. The city has grown and transformed. Yet in those narrow alleys and quiet courtyards, history lingers like a breath on cold glass, and the shadow of a name whispered in fear drifts still through the night. Jack the Ripper is more than a killer lost to time. He is a reminder of how deeply the unknown unsettles us. Not just mysteries of civilization or ancient engineering, but mysteries born from the human heart. And so we ask, not just who he was, but how a man could vanish into the very streets that witnessed his crimes. Was he a face in the crowd, unnoticed, a respected figure hiding in plain sight, or someone history has already recorded, yet never truly recognized? Until the last piece of truth is uncovered, the Ripper's identity remains a question suspended in London's mist, a puzzle held together by silence, speculation and shadows. And somewhere in an old archive box, a forgotten diary, or an untouched clue waiting patiently to be seen in a new light, the answer may still be waiting. And as the fog-shrouded streets of Victorian London fade into history's shadows, we step once again into a different past, one of marching boots, iron discipline, and the thunder of empire. From a lone killer who vanished into the night, we turn to the disappearance of an entire fighting force. Thousands of trained soldiers who seem to dissolve into the mists of time without leaving a trace. Northern Britain, cold wind sweeps across rolling highlands. Heather rustles beneath a slate-grey sky, a land rugged and untamed. Where Roman standards once rose above the hills and the disciplined tread of legions echoed through the valleys, today silence reigns, broken only by the distant call of a raven circling the ruins of ancient roads and forgotten outposts. Here legend whispers of the fate of Legio IX Hispana, the Ninth Legion. Once among Rome's most celebrated forces, the Ninth marched across continents, serving under emperors, battling rebellion, suppressing uprisings from Hispania to the eastern provinces. They were hardened by war, seasoned by victory, trusted by the empire. And then sometime in the early 2nd century AD, they vanished from the historical record. The earliest clues place them at Eboracum, modern-day York, stationed on the empire's northern frontier. Rome sought to tame Britannia, a land fierce and foreign to Mediterranean eyes. But beyond the walls, tribes resisted, warriors who moved like shadows in forests and marshland, striking and disappearing into terrain they knew intimately. The struggle here was not just military, it was elemental. Rome versus landscape, empire versus legend. After 108, the Ninth Legion's name faded from official lists. No triumphant return, no recorded defeat, no grand inscription to honour their service, only absence. What happened to them? One prevailing theory suggests a brutal end in Britannia. Ancient accounts reference a major uprising in northern Britain around this time, a rebellion fierce enough that Rome sent reinforcements and eventually ordered the construction of Hadrian's Wall. Some historians argue that the Ninth marched into hostile territory and never returned, ambushed, overwhelmed, erased by the local tribes who vanished into the wilderness before Rome could respond. Yet archaeological evidence is surprisingly thin. No battlefield, no mass graves, no broken standards unearthed on windswept moorland. If the Legion perished here, time has sealed its remains with relentless silence. Other scholars propose a different story, that the Ninth did not die, but simply left Britain. Inscriptions discovered in the Netherlands suggest elements of the Legion may have been active there after their disappearance from British records. Another fragment found in Palestine references officers possibly linked to the 9th, though debate continues over the connection. Could they have been redeployed quietly, transferred to the Empire's troubled frontiers, perhaps to face Parthian forces in the east or unrest in the Rai provinces? If so, did they meet their end there? Not in Britain, but in some distant campaign lost to desert sands or riverside forests. There are still more theories, some more unconventional. The 9th's disappearance has sparked legends of legions wandering into remote lands, cut off and forgotten. Popular imagination pictures survivors fleeing into the highlands, captured or assimilated by tribes, their identities swallowed by time and intermarriage. Others suggest bureaucratic reorganization, their name struck not due to destruction, but administrative change. The legion was absorbed into new formations. Roman historians, meticulous in many cases, are curiously vague here. Some later writers mention a legion lost in Britain, but none directly name the 9th. The silence invites speculation, and that is perhaps the heart of this mystery. Not what is said, but what isn't. When a force once central to Rome's military tapestry simply disappears from the scrolls, we are left not with answers, but with questions. Why no official record of their fate? Why no triumph? No funeral, no imperial decree? For an empire obsessed with order and documentation, the absence feels almost intentional. Standing among the remnants of Roman roads, touching weathered stones once placed by legionary hands, one can almost hear the echoes of marching feet, the clash of metal, the shouted commands in Latin. Yet the men who served, who fought, who lived and died under Rome's eagle, remain nameless in this chapter, their final story unwritten. Were they defeated by nature, by rebellion, by Rome's enemies, or by the quiet eraser of bureaucracy? Perhaps somewhere beneath layers of earth lies proof. A shield boss, a rusted spearhead, a carved standard bearing the proud inscription Legio 9, or perhaps the truth left with the legionaries themselves, carried away into lands and lives history never recorded. Until that moment of discovery, if it ever comes, the fate of Rome's 9th Legion remains one of history's most haunting silences. A disappearance not in darkness, but in daylight. Not of a single man, but thousands. A reminder that even the greatest empires lose pieces of their story to time, and sometimes whole armies march off the page and into legend. And so we ask, when history chooses to forget, is it accident or design? And somewhere buried in peat or tucked within a forgotten archive, might the answers still be waiting? And as the Roman legions vanish into history's mists, leaving behind roads, ruins, and unanswered questions, we shift our gaze from soldiers lost to time to a manuscript that seems almost deliberately designed to defy understanding. A book whose pages whisper secrets yet reveal nothing. A volume whose meaning has eluded scholars, cryptographers, and linguists for centuries. It is an enigma that continues to haunt the corridors of human curiosity. The Voynich manuscript rests quietly today in the Baker Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. Its vellum pages, yellowed and delicate, are inscribed with looping script unlike any known alphabet. Strange, unrecognizable plants curl across the margins. Fantastical figures of women swim in green pools, and celestial diagrams map stars in unfamiliar constellations. Every leaf presents a puzzle, every symbol a challenge, as if the book itself were alive, a coded world waiting to be unlocked. Carbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century, around 1404 to 1438. Yet beyond the ink and parchment, the manuscript offers few certainties. No author is known. Its provenance prior to 17th century Europe is uncertain. Its illustrations suggest knowledge of botany, astronomy, medicine, and perhaps alchemy. Yet none of its plants match identifiable species. Its language resists classification, evading all attempts at translation. Statistical analyses reveal patterns reminiscent of natural languages, yet no cipher or key has ever definitively unlocked its meaning. The manuscript's history is as mysterious as its content. In the early 17th century, it appeared in the hands of Jesuit scholars. Later it surfaces in Prague and eventually in the library of Emperor Rudolph II, who reportedly paid a small fortune for it, believing it the work of a secret alchemist. Through centuries of ownership, efforts to understand it have ranged from earnest scholarship to obsessive speculation. Each reader has found fascination but little clarity. Mainstream researchers suggest it may be an elaborate cipher, a coded language meant to conceal knowledge. Could it contain early medicinal formulas? forgotten scientific observations, or esoteric spiritual instruction? Its meticulous illustrations hint at a purpose, perhaps to catalogue herbs and remedies, or to map cosmological ideas in ways now lost to history. Each turn of the page feels deliberate, a careful layering of information intended for those able to comprehend its hidden logic. Others propose a more audacious theory, that the manuscript is an invented language, a constructed system created by its author as an intellectual exercise or even as a hoax. Yet the complexity of its structure, the consistency of its grammar-like patterns, and the labor-intensive illustrations make simple forgery difficult to accept. This is not casual artistry. It is deliberate, meticulous, and precise. Every line, every flourishing, carries intent. More speculative ideas stretch into the boundaries of imagination. Could it represent knowledge from a lost civilization encoded to survive centuries in secrecy? Does it hint at early experiments in cryptography far ahead of its time? Or is it a visual manifestation of thought itself, a symbolic representation of ideas that defy conventional written language? Theories abound, yet the manuscript remains mute, offering only the faintest clues and teasing the mind with possibilities. Every modern attempt to decipher it, from AI-driven linguistic analysis to cryptographic modelling, has yielded tantalising fragments, but no final solution. Some patterns suggest repetitions reminiscent of herbal compendiums. Others evoke astrology or anatomical study. Yet no translation holds consistently, and each new insight seems to open more questions than it resolves. It is as if the manuscript exists not to be solved, but to challenge those who seek certainty. Perhaps the manuscript's greatest allure is that it resists finality. Unlike tombs, legions, or pyramids, it offers no tangible clue to power or conquest. Instead, it invites us into the mind of its creator, a mind steeped in curiosity, observation, and invention. Its purpose, whether practical, mystical, or playful, remains obscured by time, yet its presence exerts a subtle pull, drawing observers into contemplation. As we turn its virtual pages, we feel the weight of centuries pressing down. Fingers long gone once traced these letters. Eyes now extinguished once studied these diagrams with intent and care. And yet the manuscript remains unreadable, a bridge across half a millennium that refuses to be crossed. Its mystery is not a barrier, but an invitation to wonder, to hypothesize and to marvel at human ingenuity. The Voynich manuscript reminds us that history is not always linear, that human creativity can be as confounding as it is brilliant, and that some mysteries persist not because we lack intelligence, but because they were designed to endure. Somewhere in the ink and vellum lies knowledge we have yet to comprehend, some message lost to time, some secret waiting to surface. Until that day, the manuscript sits in quiet patience, waiting, as if to ask the same question that has captivated so many across centuries. What was the purpose of this book, and who will finally read it correctly? And as we leave the misted stones of the Voynich manuscript behind, a puzzle written in ink and time, we step now into a landscape where mystery is carved not on paper, but in massive rock aligned with the rhythms of the sun and the sweep of the heavens. Here, atop the wind-swept Salisbury Plain in southern England, a circle of stones rises from the earth. Stonehenge. On a quiet morning, with fog curling low over the grass, the great sarsen stones loom like sentinels, their weathered surfaces glinting faintly in the soft light. Between them, smaller blue stones brought from the Preseli Hills in Wales over 100 miles away form patterns whose purpose has long defied explanation. The site is not merely a monument, it is a stage set for human intention, where each stone seems to carry both weight and meaning, where placement and orientation suggest knowledge, ritual, and perhaps something beyond our comprehension. To walk among them is to feel the presence of generations who sought to align earth, sky, and society in ways both physical and symbolic. Archaeological research places the initial construction of Stonehenge around 300 BC, beginning with earthworks and timber posts. By 2500 BC, the stones themselves were erected, an effort requiring immense labour, coordination, and ingenuity. The sars, some weighing over 25 tons, were transported from nearby quarries. Yet the blue stones, up to 4 tons each, were moved across rivers, hills, and valleys from distant Wales, a feat that continues to baffle engineers and historians alike. How did Neolithic people achieve this without wheeled vehicles or advanced machinery? And why go to such lengths, risking life and energy to bring these stones together in one place? Mainstream theories propose that Stonehenge served as a ceremonial and astronomical centre. Its alignment with the summer solstice, sunrise and winter solstice. Sunset indicates careful observation of celestial cycles. Could it have functioned as a calendar guiding agricultural activity, or as a site to mark the passage of seasons? Perhaps it was a place of communal ritual, where early societies gathered to celebrate life, honour ancestors, or seek connection with the cosmos. Yet the stones provoke deeper questions beyond astronomy. Why bring blue stones from so far away when local stone was available? Why construct a circular arrangement with such precise geometry including concentric rings, trilithons, and avenues extending toward other monuments? Each detail suggests intention and sophistication, but their exact meaning is elusive. Some archaeologists suggest that Stonehenge may have served as a place of healing. Human remains found nearby show evidence of injury, disease, and long-distance travel, hinting that people may have come to Stonehenge seeking restoration or spiritual guidance. Others see it as a site of ancestor worship, a space where communities reaffirmed social bonds, established hierarchies, and performed rites to honour life and death. More speculative theories explore the possibility that Stonehenge encodes astronomical, mathematical, or even energetic knowledge. Some researchers highlight alignments that correspond to lunar cycles, eclipses, or complex geometrical ratios, suggesting the builders possessed knowledge not typically associated with Neolithic cultures. Could it have functioned as an early observatory or a tool for understanding the cosmos? Did it represent a fusion of ritual, science, and art that we only partially grasp today? Fringe theories, while unproven, underscore the enduring fascination with Stonehenge. Ideas of lost civilizations, extraterrestrial guidance, or hidden energetic properties appear in popular imagination. Though these explanations sit outside mainstream scholarship, they reflect a profound human desire to find meaning where answers remain incomplete. Excavations continue to reveal the surrounding landscape as densely ritualized. Burial mounds, timber circles, and pathways extend for miles, suggesting that Stonehenge was the center of a much larger sacred complex. Its significance cannot be understood in isolation. It was part of a network of sites, a hub of ceremony, community, and perhaps cosmological contemplation. Yet the stones themselves hold their secret, refusing to yield a simple explanation. To stand among them today is to confront both human achievement and mystery. The scale, precision, and endurance of Stonehenge speak to intelligence, effort, and devotion. Yet its purpose, whether temple, calendar, place of healing, or something still unimaginable, remains beyond full comprehension. The monument endures as a question posed across millennia, challenging us to consider the ingenuity, beliefs, and priorities of those who shaped it. And so, as wind sweeps through the ancient stones and sunlight glints along their weathered surfaces, we are left with an open question. What was the true purpose of Stonehenge? Was it a place to honour the heavens, to heal the living, or to bridge the earthly and the divine? Or does its meaning lie somewhere beyond our understanding? A secret preserved in stone waiting for the right mind or the right moment to reveal it? Until that day, the stones stand monumental and mysterious, offering both evidence and enigma, a testament to human vision and the mysteries that endure beyond time. And as we step away from the wind-swept stones of Stonehenge, where human ambition met the cosmos in stone, we turn now to a mystery carried on the waves, a story not of monuments or manuscripts, but of peoples who emerged from the sea to leave history both scarred and silent. The Mediterranean of the late Bronze Age was a world of bustling ports, powerful kingdoms, and flourishing trade. Yet, as it was also a world vulnerable to sudden upheaval. It is here, amid the coasts of Egypt, the Levant, and the Aegean, that the legend of the Sea Peoples begins. Imagine the eastern Mediterranean around 1200 BC. Ships glide along sapphire waters, their oars cutting through the waves, sails catching the sun. Coastal towns hum with activity, markets overflow with grain, pottery, and bronze goods. And then, seemingly from nowhere, these waters became corridors of fear. Egyptian reliefs depict masked warriors arriving in fleets wielding swords, axes, and shields, storming shores with devastating efficiency. Fortifications fall, cities burn, and long-established empires face threats unlike any they had encountered before. The Sea Peoples appear in Egyptian records, most famously in the inscriptions of Pharaoh Ramesses III at Medinet Habu. He describes waves of attackers from the sea, allies from distant lands, organised and relentless, yet the inscriptions, while vivid, are frustratingly vague on specifics. Who were these people? Where did they come from? What motivated such coordinated movements across hundreds of miles of ocean? The answers remain tantalisingly out of reach. Mainstream scholarship suggests that the Sea Peoples may have been a confederation of displaced or migrating groups from the Aegean, Anatolia, or the central Mediterranean. Climate change, famine, internal rebellions, or economic pressures could have driven them to seek new lands, prompting conflicts with established powers like Egypt, the Hittites, and the city-states of the Levant. Archaeological evidence supports widespread disruption during this period. Burned settlements, abandoned towns, and layers of destruction across regions from Cyprus to Palestine. Yet no material culture definitively identifies a singular group as the Sea Peoples. The composition of this enigmatic coalition is also debated. Some scholars point to the Peliset often associated with the Philistines of later biblical texts alongside others identified as Chequers, Shameless, or Deny. Were these distinct ethnic groups, mercenary bands, opportunistic raiders drawn together by circumstance? The evidence is tantalising but inconclusive. More speculative theories explore far-reaching possibilities. Could some groups have sailed from the western Mediterranean or even from the central Aegean Islands, motivated by political collapse and shifting power dynamics? Might the movements of the Sea Peoples represent a combination of migration, piracy, and large-scale displacement caused by natural disasters? The timing corresponds with the late Bronze Age collapse, a period of widespread upheaval where several civilizations, Mycenaean Greece, the Hittite Empire, and others suddenly declined or vanished. Was the sea's appearance a cause of this collapse? A symptom of it, or perhaps both? Their impact was undeniable. In Egypt, Ramesses III's defences ultimately repelled them. Yet the confrontation left lasting marks. Coastal cities were fortified, trade routes shifted, and new settlements emerged in the wake of destruction. In Palestine, remnants of destroyed sites hint at sudden disruptions, while material culture suggests the eventual integration of new populations in the southern Levant. Across the Mediterranean, echoes of these migrations and invasions can be traced in archaeological records. Pottery styles, settlement patterns, and shifts in fortification methods. Despite centuries of study, the Sea Peoples remain elusive. They are both historical and mythical, real yet partially obscured by the lens of ancient propaganda, fragmentary records, and centuries of interpretive gaps. Unlike armies preserved in written records or cities recorded in maps, these peoples moved fluidly, leaving traces without a clear origin or definitive endpoint. Their story is one of motion of the intersection between human ambition, survival, and catastrophe and cat, standing on the modern shores of the eastern Mediterranean. One can almost imagine the long lines of ships, the cries of warriors, and the uncertainty that must have gripped coastal populations. The waters that sustained life also carried destruction. And yet, as quickly as they appeared, the Sea Peoples seemed to fade from the record, leaving only tantalising clues and enduring questions. Who were they truly? Migrants seeking refuge, opportunists exploiting chaos, or a confederation whose purpose was more complex than conquest alone? And what other stories of displacement, survival, and upheaval from this period remain buried beneath the sands of time? Until we find clearer answers, the identity of the Sea Peoples remains an enigma, a reminder that some chapters of human history is written not in permanence but in motion, leaving echoes that call to us across millennia. And as we leave behind the restless waters of the Mediterranean, where the Sea Peoples emerge from obscurity, we journey now to the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, a landscape alive with the calls of howler monkeys, the rustle of foliage, and the slow, inexorable march of time reclaiming what humans once built. Here, among towering sabahs and hidden cenotes, lie the ruins of the Mayan civilization, a society whose achievements in architecture, astronomy, mathematics, and art were once unparalleled, and whose sudden decline has puzzled historians for centuries. Picture the cities of Tikal, Palenque, and Copan at their peak. Grand limestone pyramids rise above the canopy, their steep steps leading to temples adorned with intricate carvings and hieroglyphs. plazas buzzed with ceremonial life, marketplaces thrived, and astronomical observatories tracked the movement of stars, the cycles of the moon, and the passage of the sun. Water channels and reservoirs reflect the ingenuity of urban planning, while ball courts echo with the sounds of ritualized sport and sacred contests. Civilization here was sophisticated, vibrant, and undeniably powerful, and yet, by the 9th century AD, many of these cities were abandoned. Populations dwindled, monuments fell into ruin, and forests began to swallow the stone structures that once defined the urban landscape. The disappearance of the Mayan civilization in the southern lands remains one of history's most compelling mysteries. What could have caused a society so advanced to collapse with such speed and thoroughness? Mainstream scholarship offers several interwoven explanations. Prolonged droughts evidenced by sediment cores and isotopic analysis may have strained agricultural systems that supported dense urban populations. Overfarming and soil depletion could have further exacerbated food shortages. Simultaneously, evidence points to intensified warfare between city-states. Fortified walls, mass gravismo, and inscriptions chronicling conflicts suggest that political fragmentation and competition destabilized the region. Social upheaval, revolts against ruling elites, and anciens erosion of central authority may have accelerated the decline. Yet these explanations, though compelling, leave unanswered questions. Droughts and conflict affected many regions without completely obliterating civilizations. Why did some northern cities like Chichen Itza and Ucal persist while others fell into ruin? Why did the Mayans abandon urban centers that had been inhabited for generations, leaving temples and palaces eerily silent? Speculative theories offer further intrigue. Could epidemics have swept through dense populations, leaving death and dislocation in their wake? Might cosmic events, meteor impacts, solar anomalies, or unusual celestial phenomena have been interpreted as omens undermining confidence in leadership and destabilizing society? Some fringe ideas even suggest the influence of lost knowledge or external contact, though no definitive evidence supports these claims. Yet the persistence of these theories reflects a broader fascination with a civilization that seemed to vanish as mysteriously as it flourished. Archaeological discoveries continue to reshape our understanding, revealing that collapse was not uniform. While southern cities were abandoned, other areas show continuity. Evidence of trade, ritual activity, and adaptation persists into the post-classic period. This uneven pattern suggests a complex interplay of environmental, social, and political factors rather than a single catastrophic event. As we stand among the moss-covered temples and sunken plazas today, it is easy to feel the weight of absence. The carvings, still vibrant in their depictions of gods, rulers, and cosmic cycles, speak to a civilization deeply attuned to both the natural and spiritual worlds. But the silence of the streets, the empty ball courts, and the forests reclaiming monumental architecture remind us that human brilliance can be both resilient and fragile. The disappearance of the Mayan civilization challenges assumptions about the permanence of human achievement. How can a culture capable of precise astronomical calculations, sophisticated mathematics, and urban engineering vanish so thoroughly? And yet in the mystery lies a lesson about adaptation, resilience, and the limits of societal systems under pressure. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of this mystery is not just the cause of decline, but the questions it leaves unanswered. Were environmental shifts the primary driver or merely a catalyst for social and political instability? Did the Mayans foresee their own vulnerabilities? Or did the collapse occur in ways no one could have anticipated? And what remnants of knowledge, tradition, and innovation survive, quietly preserved in descendants and in the ruins themselves? The Roche as sunlight filters through the canopy, illuminating the stone faces of temples and altars. One cannot help but wonder. The Mayans may have vanished from their cities, but do the secrets of their knowledge, their wisdom, and their resilience remain hidden, waiting for future generations to uncover? Until we answer these questions fully, the fate of the Mayan civilization endures as both a cautionary tale and an invitation to explore, to investigate, and to imagine the civilizations that came before and the mysteries that continue to shape our understanding of human history. And as we emerge from the dense jungles of the Mayan world, where cities rose and fell beneath the relentless canopy, we return now to the deserts of northern Africa, a land of sun-scotched stone, shifting sands, and monuments whose scale and ambition continue to defy understanding. At the heart of the Giza Plateau, overlooking the sprawling sands of Egypt, rests one of history's most enigmatic creations, the Great Sphinx. Rising nearly 70 meters in length and 20 meters in height, the Sphinx gazes eternally toward the east, its weathered limestone visage bearing the faint traces of a once proud face, eyes fixed on the horizon, a silent sentinel to millennia of human endeavour. Its body, carved from a single ridge of bedrock, combines the form of a lion with a human head, a hybrid meant to embody strength, wisdom, and divine authority. Standing before it, one is struck not only by its colossal scale, but by the questions it raises. Who carved it? When and for what purpose? Mainstream Egyptology places the Sphinx's construction during the reign of Pharaoh Khofra, around 2500 BC, linking it with his pyramid complex. Its alignment with the rising sun at the equinox and proximity to mortuary temples suggests a religious or ceremonial function, perhaps as a guardian of sacred sites or as a representation of royal power and divine protection. Excavations reveal evidence of carefully worked masonry, planned foundations, and centuries of restoration, underscoring the importance of this monument to those who built it. Yet even within this conventional framework, mysteries abound. The erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body have sparked debate. Some researchers note deep weathering that may suggest centuries of exposure to water, rain, raising questions about whether the monument predates the 4th dynasty by millennia. Could the Sphinx have been carved during a wetter epoch long before Khafra, perhaps by an earlier civilization whose records were lost to time? Geological evidence has ignited these theories, challenging traditional timelines and inviting speculation about the origins of this colossal figure. The purpose of the Sphinx is similarly enigmatic. Was it a symbol of the sun god Ra intended to channel divine energy? A political statement linking the pharaoh to divine authority and the cosmic order? Or did it serve a more practical role in guiding ceremonial processions along the plateau, its gaze marking astronomical events crucial to ritual life? Each interpretation hints at the intersection of faith, power, and human ingenuity, yet none provides a definitive answer. Further speculation arises from its design. The Sphinx's human head atop a lion's body may carry symbolic meaning lost to history. Lions are natural predators embodying power and dominance, while the human visage suggests intellect, authority, and consciousness. Together they create a hybrid of immense significance. Yet the precise cultural and spiritual intent remains shrouded. Some fringe theories go further, proposing lost civilizations, advanced knowledge, or astronomical alignments that extend far beyond the conventional understanding of Old Kingdom Egypt. Though lacking conclusive evidence, these ideas reflect the enduring fascination with a monument that so boldly combines scale, artistry, and mystery. After all, a structure carved from a single ridge of rock surviving millennia of wind, sand, and time is itself a testament to human ambition and skill, one that continues to challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. Archaeological studies reveal layers of human interaction with the Sphinx over thousands of years, restoration efforts, religious reverence, and even defacement during later periods. These layers underscore the continuity of human fascination, yet also obscure the monument's original intent. Every mark, every repair, every eroded line adds complexity to the story, reminding us that the past is often filtered through the actions of generations who followed. Standing before the Sphinx today, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe. Its gaze, fixed eternally on the horizon, seems almost to demand contemplation, drawing us into questions about the people who built it, the world they inhabited, and the knowledge they possessed. Why did they devote so much labour to this singular figure? What did it mean to them? And what does it mean to us now, thousands of years later? The origins and purpose of the Sphinx remain one of history's most enduring enigmas. Was it a creation of Pharaoh Khafra alone, or the culmination of ideas and labour stretching back centuries? Does it reflect human ingenuity constrained only by tools and ambition? Or does it hint at knowledge we have yet to fully appreciate, yet to full? As the desert wind scours the plateau and sunlight casts long shadows across its body, the Sphinx continues to watch silently, offering no answers, only questions. And so we are left to wonder what secrets lie in its origins and what truths about ancient Egypt and perhaps human civilization itself remain hidden beneath the sands of time. And as we step away from the sands of Giza, where the Sphinx gazes eternally across millennia, we turn now to a journey eastward to the cities, plains, and mountains once swept by one of history's most ambitious figures, Alexander the Great. His life was a whirlwind of conquest and vision, a force that reshaped kingdoms and cultures from Macedonia to India. Yet even in death, Alexander's story is cloaked in mystery, for the location of his final resting place remains one of history's most tantalizing enigmas. Imagine Alexandria in Egypt around 323 BC, the city newly founded along the sparkling Mediterranean coast. Crowds line the streets, banners fluttering in the warm breeze as word spreads of the death of the young king, aged only 32. He had forged an empire stretching thousands of miles, yet now lay ill in Babylon, far from his Macedonian homeland. Plans for his burial were hurried, ceremonial, and shrouded in secrecy, a reflection of both reverence and political intrigue as the preservation of his legacy became a matter of state as much as devotion. Historical sources tell us that Alexander's body was embalmed, possibly in honey, a practice meant to preserve the flesh for the long journey. Initially, it was intended to return to Macedonia, but political maneuvering altered these plans. Ptolemy, one of Alexander's trusted generals, diverted the procession to Egypt, where the king would be interred in Alexandria, a city Alexander himself had founded. Ancient texts describe a grand tomb, the Es or Sema, adorned with treasures, gold and ceremonial monuments befitting a ruler of unparalleled stature. It was said to inspire awe, a place where citizens and foreign dignitaries could witness the power and majesty of a conqueror even after death. Yet despite centuries of chronicling, the tomb's exact location remains unknown. Over time, earthquakes, urban development, and the shifting course of the Nile may have obscured or destroyed its markers. Alexandria, a city built upon layers of history, has been transformed repeatedly by empires, invasions, and natural forces. Archaeologists searching beneath its streets and submerged ruins have uncovered fragments of tombs and palatial structures, yet nothing definitively linked to Alexander. Each excavation teases the imagination, hinting at grand designs now swallowed by time. The disappearance of the tomb has inspired countless theories. Some suggest it lies beneath modern Alexandria, buried under the bustling neighbourhoods, hidden by centuries of sediment and construction. Others posit that it may have been submerged by the sea or destroyed entirely, leaving no trace for future generations to uncover. And still others wonder if the tomb was looted, its treasures dispersed across kingdoms and continents, its location deliberately concealed by those who feared the power and symbolism contained within. Historical accounts hint at the reverence and significance attached to the tomb. Ptolemaic rulers reportedly displayed Alexander's body in public, allowing citizens and visiting dignitaries to pay homage, emphasizing the enduring cult of his personality. Roman emperors, including Julius Caesar and Augustus, visited the site, treating it as a monument of legendary importance. Yet by late antiquity, even these accounts grow scarce, leaving a veil of uncertainty over the final resting place of man who once seemed to conquer the world itself. Speculative theories expand the enigma further. Could the tomb be hidden outside Alexandria, moved for reasons of security or political expedience? Might it be located within a now lost city, erased by time and nature? Some suggest that Alexander's remains were never intended for veneration, but were secretly relocated or divided. Their resting place was deliberately concealed to prevent unrest or manipulation by successors. Others, more fanciful, proposed that the tomb may still hold treasures, relics, or knowledge lost to history, awaiting discovery in a place untouched by modern archaeology. Archaeology continues to probe Alexandria's ancient layers, yet each dig raises as many questions as it answers. Submerged ruins in the harbour, unexplored palace complexes, and burial mounds hint at monumental constructions whose significance may never be fully understood. Even without definitive proof, the allure of Alexander's tomb persists, a symbol of ambition, mortality, and the human desire to honour those who have shaped history. Standing today in Alexandria, one can almost imagine the grand procession, the gilded sarcophagus, and the throngs of mourners paying their respects to a ruler whose life and death were equally monumental. And yet, beneath modern streets and shifting sands, the tomb remains elusive, hidden, perhaps intentionally so. What secrets does it still guard? Could the final resting place of Alexander the Great lie just beneath our feet, waiting to reveal its treasures and stories? Or has it been lost forever to the currents of time? The mystery endures, a reminder that even history's greatest conquerors may leave behind puzzles that continue to challenge our curiosity and imagination across millennia. And as we leave the bustling streets of Alexandria, where the search for Alexander the Great's tomb stretches the imagination across millennia, we turn now to a quieter, submerged world, a place where the depths of the safeguard secrets of human ingenuity long forgotten. Off the coast of the Greek island of Antigua, in the early 20th century, divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck made a discovery that would puzzle historians and scientists for generations. Corroded bronze device, small and unassuming, yet astonishing in its complexity. The Antikythera mechanism. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than a tangle of gears encrusted with marine growth. Yet upon careful study, it became clear that this was no ordinary object. The mechanism contained more than 30 interlocking bronze gears, precisely cut, calibrated, and arranged in ways that would rival clockmaking techniques developed more than a millennium later. Its purpose, initially mysterious, suggested an instrument capable of tracking the movements of celestial bodies, the sun, moon, and perhaps even the planets with remarkable precision. The Antikythera mechanism is thought to date from around 100 BC, yet the sophistication of its construction challenges our understanding of technology in the humanistic world. Ancient texts describe devices capable of predicting eclipses and tracking planetary cycles, but no physical examples had survived until this one emerged from the sea. How could a civilization without modern tools create a mechanism that would not be replicated until the 14th century AD? What knowledge lost to time allowed for such craftsmanship and astronomical insight? Researchers using X-ray tomography and 3D modelling have revealed intricate inscriptions and displays on the mechanism, including a calendar system, eclipse predictions, and possibly even cycles related to the ancient Olympic Games. Each gear, each carefully engraved dial speaks of meticulous planning, mathematical expertise, and a deep understanding of celestial motion. Yet the precise use of the device and the full extent of its capabilities remains partially speculative. Could it have been a teaching tool, a device for navigators, or a ceremonial object demonstrating the harmony of the cosmos? Mainstream theories emphasize its role as an astronomical calculator, reflecting the hedonistic fascination with the cosmos. It may have been designed to illustrate the movements of the heavens for philosophers, scholars, or rulers, seeking to understand divine order. Yet the mechanism also raises profound questions about the transmission of knowledge. How many similar devices might have existed, lost to shipwreck, decay, or conquest? What does its existence imply about the scientific and technological achievements of ancient civilizations? Some fringe theories speculate even further. Could the Antikythera mechanism represent a forgotten branch of advanced engineering? Did it draw on knowledge from a lost civilization, perhaps one whose writings and instruments vanished under the tides of time? While such ideas remain unproven, they reflect the awe that the mechanism inspires, an object that bridges the gap between imagination and historical fact, demonstrating capabilities that seem almost anachronistic for its era. The shipwreck itself adds layers to the mystery. What was the purpose of the vessel carrying such a remarkable device? Was it being transported for a wealthy patron, for a library, or as part of trade among scholars? The scattered artifacts, statues, coins, pottery hint at a cargo of cultural and artistic value. Yet the mechanism stands apart, enigmatic and singular among its companions. Even today, the antiquity mechanism continues to challenge scientists and historians. Each new technological advance in imaging and analysis reveals more about its construction and purpose. Yet the full picture remains elusive. Its gears tell a story of ambition, intellect, and curiosity, but they also speak to what has been lost. The countless inventions and insights of a civilization that reached for the stars only to vanish, leaving fragments to puzzle future generations. Holding the mechanism in mind, one cannot help but reflect on the broader sweep of history. Civilizations rise, knowledge is created, and yet so much is inevitably lost. What other instruments, texts, or insights lie hidden beneath the waves or buried beneath centuries of Earth waiting to be discovered? The Antikythera mechanism endures as a testament to human ingenuity, a relic of a time when the mysteries of the cosmos were observed, calculated, and revered. And as we ponder its intricacies, we are left with a lingering question. How much of the ancient world's knowledge remains hidden, and what other wonders might still lie waiting sunken beneath the waters of history? And as we leave the intricate gears and submerged secrets of the anti-mechanism behind, our journey now carries us across oceans and continents from the Mediterranean to the arid coastal plains of southern Peru. Here, stretching across hundreds of square kilometers of desert, lie the Nazca Lines, immense geoglyphs etched into the earth with a precision and scale that continue to captivate archaeologists, historians, and travelers alike. From the ground, these lines appear as simple grooves in the sand, faint scratches across the ochre landscape. Yet, when viewed from the air, they reveal themselves in their full grandeur, colossal shapes of hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and geometric forms that stretch hundreds of meters. The desert wind has preserved these figures for over a millennium, leaving the Nazca Lines both striking and enigmatic, a canvas written by a civilization now silent, dating back to approximately 500 BC to 500 A. These geoglyphs are attributed to the Nazca culture, a society known for its sophisticated pottery, textiles, and hydraulic engineering. But the lines themselves raise profound questions. How did people without flight create images only fully visible from above? What was their purpose? Were they religious, astronomical, ritualistic, or symbolic in a way that we can scarcely imagine today? Mainstream theories suggest that many lines align with astronomical markers, including solstices, equinoxes, or cycles of the moon and planets, hinting at a potential role in ceremonial observances. Some geometric figures may have served as pathways for processions or ritual walks, connecting sacred sites and reinforcing social cohesion. Animal figures so precise and striking may have held spiritual significance, representing deities, mythical creatures, or the natural world as interpreted by the Nazca people. Yet these explanations, while compelling, leave room for deeper intrigue. How could such vast and accurate depictions be executed without aerial perspective? Some researchers posit that scaffolds, grids, or long measuring ropes could have been used, but the precision and scale remain extraordinary. Could there have been knowledge, techniques, or traditions lost to time that enabled such a feat, something that modern humans struggle to replicate with the same simplicity and elegance? Speculative theories add another layer of fascination. Some suggest that the lines were created to be seen by the gods from above, a form of communication with celestial beings. Others, more controversial, propose extraterrestrial influence, though these ideas remain outside the mainstream. The enduring power of the Nazca Lines lies not in proof of the extraordinary, but in the mystery itself. The sense that human ingenuity, ritual, and observation converge to create something simultaneously tangible and elusive. The desert itself plays a role in preserving and accentuating these wonders. Strong winds, minimal rainfall, and the unique composition of the soil protect the geoglyphs from erosion. Yet, time is not entirely kind. Natural forces, modern development, and human interference pose ongoing threats, reminding us that these ancient expressions are fragile witnesses to a distant culture. Archaeological investigation has uncovered hints about the people who created the lines. Evidence of settlements, water channels, and ceremonial structures nearby suggests a society deeply attuned to both environment and ritual. Water scarcity may have made rain and fertility central to their worldview, reflected in the depictions of animals and geometric forms associated with nourishment and cosmic order. Yet, even with these insights, the precise motivations and methods remain largely speculative. From a distance, the Nazca Lines convey an almost otherworldly presence. They are not just markings on the earth, but a dialogue between human perception, ritual practice, and the vastness of the desert. They remind us that civilizations often communicate across time in ways we are only beginning to decipher, leaving patterns, symbols, and questions that endure long after the creators have vanished. Standing at top of the arid hills that overlook the plains, one can imagine the meticulous care, patience, and devotion required to etch each figure into the ground day after day without the advantage of aerial view. Who observed them, who walked their pathways, and what messages or meanings were intended for those who would come after those who would. The Nazca Lines remain a silent testament to the ingenuity, spirituality, and ambition of the Nazca culture, and yet they preserve their secrets as deliberately as they preserve their shapes, inviting each observer to ponder the intersection of art, science, and belief in a civilization now lost to time. What was their ultimate purpose? Were they prayers, maps, calendars, or something even more profound, waiting to be fully fully understood? The answers remain elusive, leaving us to marvel at the vision of a people who transformed the desert into a monumental tapestry, a message from the past, etched in stone and sand, still speaking across centuries. And as we ascend from the sweeping plains of southern Peru, where the Nazca lines etch mysteries into the desert, we return once more to the golden sands of Egypt, to a valley nestled between jagged cliffs along the Nile, the Valley of the Kings. Here, tombs of pharaohs lie hidden beneath the surface, their treasures preserved in silence, and among them one discovery would captivate the world. The tomb of Tutankhamun, a young pharaoh whose life was brief, yet whose resting place would ignite legends of curses, death, and intrigue. In November 1922, the British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team made an unprecedented discovery. Behind a sealed doorway, untouched for over 3 millennia, lay a tomb brimming with gold, ceremonial objects, chariots, and the iconic mask of Tutankhamun gleaming as though suspended in time. The chamber exuded an otherworldly aura. Every corner reflected light off gilded surfaces. Every artifact seemed to whisper stories of the boy king and the world he once ruled. And yet alongside the marvel came an unsettling narrative. The notion of a curse haunting those who entered the tomb. The legend of the curse began shortly after the tomb's opening. Lord Carnarvon, Carter's financial backer, died unexpectedly from an infected mosquito bite, fueling speculation that the pharaoh's spirit had struck in vengeance. Reports of subsequent deaths among those who had visited or handled objects from the tomb added to the growing aura of fear. Newspapers eagerly amplified these stories, framing the discovery not only as a triumph of archaeology, but as an encounter with the supernatural. Historical evidence, however, paints a more measured picture. Many of those who entered the tomb lived long, healthy lives. The Valley of the Kings was already a harsh environment. Bacteria, mold, and ancient pathogens may have contributed to illness. Archaeological and forensic studies suggest that fungal spores within the tomb could have caused respiratory issues or infections. Yet even scientific explanations cannot fully extinguish the fascination with the tale of the pharaoh's curse. Why does it continue to captivate our imagination? Why does the idea of Tutankhamun's wrath feel almost tangible despite centuries of scrutiny? The mystery deepens when considering the young king himself. Tutankhamun ascended the throne around 322 BC at the age of 9 and died approximately a decade later under circumstances still debated. Was it illness, injury, or assassination? Was the boy king simply a pawn in the political and religious turmoil of his time? Or did he meet a more violent end that echoes in the whispered warnings of the tomb? The historical record provides tantalizing glimpses, but definitive answers remain elusive. The tomb's artifacts themselves add layers of intrigue. Weapons, ceremonial objects, and intricate jewellery carry inscriptions and iconography intended to protect the pharaoh in the afterlife. Could the alleged curse have been part of the tomb's spiritual safeguards, a deliberate deterrent against tomb robbers? The Egyptians believed deeply in the power of words, rituals, and divine authority. Perhaps the warnings were less about death for the living and more about safeguarding the king's journey into eternity. Speculative theories extend beyond disease and ritual. Some suggest that political motives might have inspired fabricated stories of a curse, casting a shadow over rival archaeologists or amplifying the fame of Carter and his discoveries. Others hinted at an almost mystical resonance. The allure of a young pharaoh whose treasures were untouched for centuries, whose death invites reflection on mortality, power, and legacy. In every narrative, the tomb stands as both a literal and symbolic threshold between life and death, the known and the unknown, history and myth. Modern research continues to shed light on Tutankhamun, yet the tomb's aura remains undiminished. Advances in DNA testing, forensic analysis, and archaeology offer insights into his health, lineage, and cause of death. Yet the power of the story lies not merely in scientific facts, but in the layers of imagination, fear, and reverence that have occurred over the past century. Each visitor, each scholar, each observer participates in a dialogue between past and present, where gold and shadow coexist. Standing before the tomb today, one senses both grandeur and vulnerability. The treasures glimmer with the brilliance of an ancient civilization, yet the silence of the chambers evokes the fragility of life and the mysteries that endure beyond human understanding. The legend of the curse is more than a tale of superstition. It is a reflection of humanity's fascination with death, the unknown and the power of memory preserved in stone and gold. Was there truly a curse, or is it simply the echo of imagination meeting history? And beyond these tales, what secrets remain hidden within the tomb's chambers, quietly guarding the legacy of a boy king whose story still captivates the world? The tomb of Tutankhamun remains a bridge between the tangible and the mystical, a place where history and legend entwine, reminding us that even the most brilliant discoveries can harbour shadows that refuse to be fully illuminated. And as we leave the golden sands and tombs of Egypt behind, where legends of curses and lost treasures echo through history, our journey now takes us far to the remote forests of Siberia, to a place so vast and isolated that nature itself seems to dominate every horizon. Here in the early hours of June 30th, 1908, the sky above the Tunguska region of central Siberia was suddenly rent by a colossal flash of light, a deafening roar, and an explosion that flattened over 2,000 square kilometres of forest, felling millions of trees in every direction. Eyewitnesses described the event as a blinding fireball streaking across the sky, followed by a tremendous shockwave that knocked people off their feet, shattered windows hundreds of kilometres away, and lit up skies across Europe with a strange fiery glow, yet no crater was ever found. No fragments of a conventional meteorite were recovered. The enormity of the devastation, coupled with the absence of a discernible impact site, turned the Tunguska explosion into one of the 20th century's most enduring mysteries. Mainstream scientific explanations suggest that a meteoroid or comet, perhaps 50 to 60 miles in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded in an airburst at 5 to 10 kilometers above the forest. The energy released, estimated at 10 to 15 megawatt tons of TNT, would be hundreds of times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Such a scenario accounts for the widespread flattening of trees in radial patterns and the observed shockwaves. Yet questions linger. How could an object explode with such force without leaving a conventional impact crater? And why did the sky remain illuminated for days afterward across Europe? Explorations of the region began decades later in the 1920s and 1930s, when Soviet scientists led by Leonid Kulich talked through the Siberian wilderness. They documented the radial patterns of fallen trees, collected eyewitness accounts, and scoured the area for remnants of the celestial intruder. Despite meticulous study, no substantial fragments were found, only small charred bits of silica and traces of unusual minerals, leaving room for speculation. Could the object have been a fragment of a comet, largely composed of ice, which vaporized entirely upon entering the atmosphere? Or might it have been a type of cosmic body unknown to contemporary science? Alternative theories have emerged over the decades, ranging from natural phenomena to the extraordinary. Some suggest that a mini black hole, antimatter, or even a natural gas explosion from the Earth itself could explain the devastation. Others propose more speculative ideas: a UFO crash, a secret weapon test, or an extraterrestrial event beyond current comprehension. While these remain unproven, they underscore the enigmatic nature of the Tunguska event, an explosion that defies simple explanation where observation meets imagination. The human and environmental impact of the explosion adds to the mystery. Eyewitness reports describe windows rattling in villages hundreds of kilometers away, animals fleeing in terror, and a sky ablaze with unusual colors. Trees were scorched at the tops while their bases remained intact, suggesting a high-altitude air burst rather than a surface impact. Yet despite the sheer scale of destruction, the sparsely populated region saw remarkably few casualties. Only a handful of documented deaths, leaving the forest itself as the principal witness to the event. Modern research continues to refine our understanding. Advances in physics, astronomy, and computer modelling provide increasingly precise simulations of an atmospheric explosion. Yet they cannot fully capture the human sense of awe, fear, and wonder that the Tunguska event inspired. Each new study reconstructs the trajectory, energy, and environmental consequences. Yet the fundamental mystery remains. A cataclysmic event observed by many, recorded in scientific data, and yet still devoid of a tangible conventional object at its epicenter. The Tunguska explosion compels reflection on the fragility of human perception and the vastness of natural forces. How often do events occur beyond our immediate understanding, leaving only traces, fallen trees, scorched earth, a sky still luminous days after the fact as clues to forces far greater than ourselves? What other phenomena, perhaps yet unrecorded, might similarly challenge our comprehension of the natural world. Standing in the Siberian taiga today, among the regrown forest that slowly reclaims the scars of that June morning, one cannot help but feel both humbled and unsettled. The trees rising again toward the sky mark the place of an explosion whose origin and full nature remain shrouded in mystery. And so we are left to wonder, was Tunguska the product of a cosmic accident, a natural quirk, or something even more extraordinary, hiding just beyond the boundaries of human knowledge? The explosion of 1908 endures not only as a historical event, but as a testament to the unknown, reminding us that even in the modern age, Earth can still be touched by forces that exceed comprehension, leaving behind questions that continue to echo through the wilderness of time. And as the taiga of Siberia slowly recedes behind us, where the Tunguska explosion left both mystery and memory etched into the earth, our journey now turns to a land where history, faith, and legend intertwine, the ancient landscapes of Palestine. Here, among arid hills, river valleys, and the remains of temples and fortresses, lies a story that has captivated human imagination for millennia, the story of the Ark of the Covenant. According to biblical tradition, the Ark was a sacred chest crafted under divine instruction to house the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments. Its construction, described with meticulous detail, combined gold, acacia wood, and symbolic ornamentation, a gold lid known as the mercy seat, flanked by cherubim with outstretched wings. The Ark was not merely a container, it was considered a vessel of divine presence, capable of miraculous acts, and imbued with a power that commanded both reverence and fear. Throughout ancient texts, the Ark appears at the centre of monumental events, guiding the Israelites during their exodus, parting waters, toppling walls, and serving as a focal point in battles. Its very presence was believed to ensure victory and protection, while improper contact or disrespect could bring sudden death. These narratives illustrate not only religious devotion, but also a profound mystique surrounding an object whose material existence was inseparable from spiritual awe. Yet for all its prominence, the Ark's ultimate fate is shrouded in uncertainty. After centuries of use in the Jerusalem Temple, historical records indicate that it disappeared, its location unrecorded, and its existence increasingly veiled in legend. Some suggest it was hidden before the Babylonian conquest of 586 BC to protect it from litters, while others speculate it may have been moved to secret locations elsewhere in the region. Could it lie buried beneath ancient ruins, concealed in caves, or transported to distant lands? Archaeological investigations have yet to uncover definitive evidence. Scholars debate whether the Ark ever existed as described or whether it represents a symbolic construct, an embodiment of divine covenant rather than a tangible artifact. Yet tantalizing clues persist. References in Egyptian and Mesopotamian texts hint at sacred chests of power, and local traditions across the Near East point to hidden treasures and holy relics. Could these fragments of memory preserve glimpses of the Ark's reality? Or do they merely reflect humanity's enduring fascination with objects of transcendence? Speculation extends further, fueled by centuries of storytelling and scholarly inquiry. Some propose that the Ark was relocated to Ethiopia, where legends of the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion suggest it remains safeguarded by a solitary guardian. Others imagine it secreted within hidden chambers beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, inaccessible to modern exploration, its presence a silent testament to a vanished era. And still more imaginative theories posited that the Ark contained advanced knowledge or technology, though such notions remain firmly in the realm of conjecture. Scientific investigation has attempted to reconcile these stories with reality. Could a wooden chest adorned with gold generate the phenomena described in ancient texts? Are accounts of divine fire and lightning evidence of metaphorical storytelling? Or could natural phenomena have inspired extraordinary narratives? Each question leads to another, deepening the sense of wonder rather than diminishing it. Even today, the Ark exerts a magnetic pull on the imagination. Artists, writers, explorers, and theologians continue to seek it, drawn by the promise of uncovering a tangible connection to antiquity, to witness a vessel that bridges human and divine experience. Its absence paradoxically amplifies its power. The more elusive the Ark becomes, the more potent its legend and the more compelling its call across centuries and cultures. To walk through the ancient valleys of Palestine to trace the paths of prophets and priests is to feel the weight of history and the shadow of the unknown. One can almost sense the reverence, the whispered warnings, and the awe that must have surrounded the Ark in its time, a relic of devotion, authority, and mystery. Where then is the Ark of the Covenant today? Was it hidden, destroyed, or transported beyond our reach? And if it survives, what truths, powers, or stories might it still hold, silently waiting for discovery? Waiting for the Ark endures as a symbol of the unseen forces that shape history, a relic whose presence may forever remain a mystery, inviting each generation to wonder at the intersection of faith, history, and the human desire to touch the divine. And as the mysteries of ancient sacred relics fade behind us, from the hidden chambers of Palestine to the tales of the Ark of the Covenant, our journey now ascends to the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes in Peru, where the remains of an extraordinary city cling to steep mountainsides, Machu Picchu. Nestled nearly 2,400 termos above sea level, the citadel rises from the clouds. Its terraces, temples, and stone walls create an awe-inspiring silhouette against the rugged Andean horizon. From afar, Machu Picchu appears as if sculpted by the mountains themselves, a city harmoniously integrated into its environment. Terraces cascade down slopes, stairways zigzag between levels, and buildings with precisely fitted stones form plazas, temples, and residential complexes. The precision is remarkable. Stones cut to interlock without mortar, yet resistant to the earthquakes that periodically shake the region. The skill of the builders, largely attributed to the Inca civilization around the mid-5th century AD, continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and engineers alike. Mainstream research emphasizes the ingenuity of Inca engineering. They utilized ashlar masonry, shaping stones to fit together with remarkable accuracy, often without the use of metal tools. Terraces not only provided agricultural space but also stabilized the mountainside against erosion, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of both geology and hydrology. Water channels and drainage systems carried rainwater efficiently, preventing landslides and flooding, while plazas and residential sectors were carefully planned to maximize sunlight, airflow, and accessibility. The level of integration between architecture and natural landscape remains unparalleled. Yet as much as we understand, questions linger. How were massive stones, some weighing over 50 tons, transported across such steep and inaccessible terrain without wheels or draft animals? How did Inca architects and labourers achieve such precision in shaping and fitting stones so perfectly that even a knife blade cannot fit between them? Some speculate the use of unknown techniques, advanced tools lost to time, or methods of manipulation and leverage that remain largely conjectural. The alignment of Machu Picchu with astronomical events adds another layer of intrigue. Structures like the Inhuatana stone are thought to function as solar observatories, marking solstices and equinoxes with remarkable accuracy. Could the site have served not only as a royal estate or religious centre, but also as a sophisticated calendar and ceremonial complex blending science, spirituality, and governance in ways still partially understood today? Beyond practical engineering, some scholars suggest that Machu Picchu was designed to resonate with sacred geography. The surrounding peaks, rivers, and valleys may have held spiritual significance, guiding the placement of temples and terraces. The site's layout suggests an understanding of cosmic and terrestrial order, a reflection of Inca cosmology and reverence for Pachamama, the earth goddess. Was Machu Picchu therefore both a functional city and a ritual landscape, an interplay of human ingenuity and spiritual vision? Speculative theories push even further. Some propose that the city could not have been built without knowledge of mechanical principles lost to time, hinting at techniques that have no surviving record. Others imagine that Machu Picchu was part of a broader network of sacred sites aligned with energy lines or ley lines, though such claims remain outside mainstream archaeology. These ideas, while unverified, underscore the sense of wonder that surrounds the site, an enduring mystery, not just of construction, but of intention and purpose. Despite centuries of study, Machu Picchu continues to defy complete understanding. Every terrace, every wall, every precisely shaped stone is both testimony to human ingenuity and an invitation to reflect on what has been lost. What techniques were employed to achieve such precision and durability? How did the Incas blend function, beauty and spirituality into a city that seems to float between earth and sky? Walking among its terraces today, one feels the echoes of labour, ritual and vision. The stones themselves seem to hum with history, silently preserving the knowledge of a civilization that mastered both terrain and technique. The fog drifts through stairways and plazas, shrouding the city in an air of quiet contemplation, as if the mountains themselves guard secrets still beyond reach. Still beyond Machu Picchu is more than a city. It is a dialogue between humanity and the natural world, a testament to what can be achieved with ingenuity, observation and reverence. And yet, the deeper one studies it, the more questions arise. What other methods, knowledge, or wisdom were employed here that remain unrecorded? How many secrets of construction, planning, and cosmic alignment still lie hidden, waiting for those willing to uncover them? The city endures as a monument to the enduring mystery of human capability, inviting each visitor to consider not just what was built, but how and why, and to wonder at the ingenuity that allowed stone, mountain, and sky to converge in such perfect harmony. And as the Andes recede behind us, where Machu Picchu rises in misty splendour, our journey now sweeps across continents and centuries to the palaces of Europe, where art, opulence, and mystery converge in a single elusive treasure, the Amber Room. Crafted with extraordinary skill and adorned with panels of amber, gold leaf and mirrors, this chamber was once hailed as the eighth wonder of the world, a dazzling testament to human artistry and the pursuit of beauty. Originally constructed in the early 18th century for the Prussian King Frederick I, the Amber Room was later gifted to Peter the Great of Russia, where it was installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. Visitors described walls that glowed with golden warmth, amber panels intricately carved into scenes of nature, myth, and history, reflecting light in a manner both hypnotic and sublime. The room was a celebration of craftsmanship, wealth, and power, a space where light, shadow, and amber intertwined to create an almost otherworldly experience. Yet, as captivating as the Amber Room was, its story takes a darker, more enigmatic turn during the 20th century. In 1941, as Nazi forces advanced into the Soviet Union, the room was meticulously dismantled and transported to Koigberg, in what is now Leningrad, ostensibly to preserve it as a prize of war. From that moment, the trail of the Amber Room becomes shadowed, fragmented, and contested. It vanished from history, leaving behind only photographs, blueprints, and tantalizing eyewitness accounts. Post-war investigations have traced multiple possible fates. Some suggest it was destroyed during Allied bombings of Koigberg, reduced to rubble in the chaos of conflict. Others propose that it was hidden in secret bunkers or mines buried beneath layers of earth to protect it from looters and invaders. Tales of recovery by Soviet and German soldiers abound, yet none have definitively located the panels. Could it remain intact somewhere, its brilliance waiting to be rediscovered, or was it forever lost, scattered in fragments across the continent? The Amber Room has inspired both scholarly research and imaginative theories. Detailed reconstructions like the painstakingly recreated Amber Room completed in 2003 in St. Petersburg showcase what was lost. Yet even they cannot convey the original's elusive glow or the aura it once radiated. Could the Nazis have hidden it in plain sight within a concealed vault, a remote forest, or beneath abandoned infrastructure? Was it stolen by private collectors, spirited away through shadowy networks, or destroyed in a way that erased all trace? Historical records provide some guidance, but rarely answers. Diaries, letters, and photographs capture its removal, but the final location of the room is unrecorded. Eyewitness accounts conflict. Some speak of crates stored in underground bunkers, others of transport convoys lost in the chaos of retreat. Each piece of evidence adds to the mystery, as if the Amber Room itself resists being pinned down, eluding historians, treasure hunters, and the curious alike. The fascination with the Amber Room is not merely about its material wealth, but the intersection of history, war, and human ambition it embodies. It represents the fragility of cultural heritage in times of conflict, the way objects can become symbols of national pride, greed, and obsession. In every theory, reconstruction, or rumour, the room continues to cast a shadow over Europe's 20th century history, glittering enigma that challenges our understanding of loss and preservation. Speculative ideas push the story even further. Some enthusiasts suggest that the Amber Room was moved beyond Europe entirely, shipped clandestinely to remote locations or concealed in secret chambers awaiting rediscovery. Others imagine that its disappearance was intentional, part of a deliberate act of erasure designed to remove a symbol of national identity or artistic supremacy. While these notions remain unverified, they underscore the compelling power of the missing treasure, a fascination that blends fact, conjecture, and imagination. Walking through the reconstructed Amber Room today, one is struck not only by beauty, but by absence. The glow, the texture, and the history of the original invite reflection. What was lost to war, what survived in memory, and what might yet be found? Each panel, each fragment, each record hints at the magnificence of the past while reminding us that history can be incomplete, fragile, and hauntingly elusive. Where then does the Amber Room rest now? Is it buried beneath rubble, hidden in a forested bunker, or lost forever in the tides of history? And if it remains somewhere intact, who will be the first to encounter its amber light once more? The mystery of the Amber Room endures, shimmering at the edge of possibility, a symbol of human creativity and the tantalizing elusiveness of history itself, inviting each generation to wonder what treasures remain hidden, waiting to illuminate the past. And as we leave behind the golden panels and hidden corridors of Europe, where the Amber Room vanishes into history, our journey now sweeps across oceans and skies to a story of courage, innovation, and profound mystery. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart. On a clear morning in July 1937, the Pacific air shimmered with heat and possibility as Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan prepared to complete a daring circumnavigation of the globe in their Lockheed Electra. Few could have anticipated that the journey would culminate in one of the 20th century's most enduring enigmas. The vastness of the Pacific Ocean stretches beyond comprehension, a seemingly infinite expanse of water and sky where weather shifts abruptly and landmarks vanish beneath rolling waves. It was in this remote expanse near Howland Island that Earhart's voice crackled over the radio for the last time, reporting uncertainty in position and fuel. Moments later, all communication ceased, leaving behind only the image of a bright, determined aviator whose presence would linger in the public imagination, but whose physical traces would vanish. Mainstream explanations suggest a tragic combination of navigational error and fuel exhaustion. Pilots and researchers have reconstructed Earhart's final flight path, accounting for wind drift, radio miscommunications, and the challenges of pinpointing tiny islands over thousands of miles of open ocean. An emergency landing at sea followed by sinking into the waters below is the scenario most widely accepted by historians. Yet even with decades of search and research, no conclusive wreckage of the Electra has been found, leaving the story suspended between record and speculation. Alternative theories have emerged, each adding layers of intrigue to the mystery. Some propose that Earhart and Noonan survived a crash and were cast upon a remote island, possibly Nikumaroro in the Phoenix Islands, where archaeological evidence, including fragments of metal and personal items, hints at human presence in the late 1930s. Could the aviator have lived out her days in obscurity, far from the headlines and cameras, leaving behind only whispers in the wind and the ocean's relentless currents? Other theories are even more provocative. Some suggest she was captured by foreign forces or involved in covert operations related to the geopolitical tensions of the era. Others entertain the idea that the Electra drifted to uncharted reefs or vanished under conditions that left no trace, a reminder of the ocean's capacity to erase even the most carefully plotted routes. While none of these scenarios has been conclusively proven, each underscores the enduring fascination with Earhart's fate, a combination of historical fact, imaginative reconstruction, and the human yearning for closure. Scientific and technological efforts continue to probe the mystery. Modern sonar, satellite mapping, and underwater exploration have surveyed potential crash sites. Yet each discovery raises new questions rather than providing definitive answers. Every fragment, every artifact, and every eyewitness account is meticulously examined, but the Electra's remains remain elusive, suspended in the deep, much like the story itself, half in history, half in legend. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart also reflects a broader narrative about human ambition and the limits of knowledge. She ventured into the skies at a time when long-distance dance aviation was perilous, guided by skill, courage, and a vision of possibility. Her vanishing is a stark reminder of the thin line between human ingenuity and the immense forces of nature, the endless horizon of the Pacific, unpredictable weather, and the unforgiving expanse of the ocean. In this context, her story becomes not only a tale of a missing aviator, but a meditation on exploration, risk, and the unknown. Even today, Earhart's disappearance resonates. Her image, goggles perched atop of her head, a determined gaze fixed forward, has become iconic, a symbol of both adventure and unresolved history. Each generation imagines what might have happened, retracing her flight, scanning the horizon, and listening for echoes across the waves. Was she lost at sea, her Electra swallowed by the depths? Did she survive briefly on a remote island, or encounter forces and circumstances still obscured by time? As we reflect on the mystery, the Pacific itself seems to hold its breath. A vast and silent witness to one of history's most perplexing vanishings, Amelia Earhart's fate remains suspended between evidence and conjecture, memory and imagination. A story that continues to challenge researchers, explorers and dreamers alike. And so, as we scan the endless expanse of ocean and sky, we are left with the enduring question: what became of Amelia Earhart? And what secrets might the Pacific still conceal, waiting to be discovered by those bold enough to seek them? And as the vast Pacific fades behind us, where Amelia Earhart's fate remains suspended in mist and waves, our journey now returns to the heart of Europe, to a relic that has inspired both devotion and skepticism for centuries: the Shroud of Turin. Draped in silence and mystery, this linen cloth bears the faint, enigmatic image of a man, etched in such subtle detail that observers are drawn to study it again and again. Each time noticing something new, the contours of the face, the marks along the body, the shadows of wounds, each whispering a story half remembered, half hidden. The Shroud's history is both documented and elusive. Its first verifiable appearance in historical records dates to the 14th century in Larry, France, though some claim earlier connections to Jerusalem and the Roman world. Over the centuries, it has travelled through the hands of nobility, clergy, and scholars surviving fires, wars, and political upheavals, always drawing fascination and debate. The image itself is unlike any other. Not painted, not drawn, yet unmistakably human in proportion, conveying depth, texture, and even a sense of suffering. How such a delicate impression could have been formed on cloth, and why it seems impervious to conventional explanation, remains at the centre of its enduring mystery. Scientific investigation has approached the shroud from multiple angles, seeking to reconcile observation with evidence. Radiocarbon dating conducted in the late 20th century suggested a medieval origin, placing the fabric between 1260 and 1390 AD. Yet questions linger. Critics argue that contamination, repairs, or environmental factors may have skewed the results. Detailed analyses of bloodstains, pollen, and textile patterns point to a complex history, hinting at journeys through both Europe and the Middle East. Could the shroud have originated in Palestine centuries earlier, hidden, transported, and preserved in ways that confound modern understanding? The uncertainty only deepens the intrigue. The image itself presents a puzzle that transcends simple chronology. Its anatomical precision, the three-dimensional qualities captured in shadow and light, and the apparent correspondence of wounds with crucifixion accounts have led some to suggest extraordinary explanations. Is it a remarkable artistic creation crafted with lost techniques that mimic reality with uncanny accuracy? Or does it capture in some inexplicable way a fleeting imprint of a human form? An echo of history preserved in fibre and flax. Each glance invites contemplation, as if the cloth is both a document and a presence hovering between art and miracle. Speculation extends even further. Some researchers propose that the image may have been formed through chemical reactions, radiation, or unknown natural processes. Others suggest that it is a sacred relic created or preserved by forces beyond ordinary comprehension. Each hypothesis is carefully weighed, but none has fully reconciled the physical evidence with the shroud's historical narrative. This tension between faith, science, and imagination adds layers to its allure, creating a space where mystery and reverence coexist, and where certainty remains elusive. Beyond the physical and technical, the shroud carries profound cultural and spiritual significance. Pilgrims travel from around the world to glimpse it, reflecting on the human experience of suffering, mortality, and transcendence. Artists, theologians, and historians pore over every detail, seeking insight not only into the image itself, but into the story it represents. A man, a life and the enduring imprint of history upon material form. Could it be that the shroud was intended to evoke reflection, to bridge the human and the divine? Or is it the accidental result of processes lost to time? The question lingers as delicately as the fibres themselves. Despite centuries of scrutiny, the shroud's origins and the means by which its image was created remain unresolved. Each discovery, from microanalysis of fibres to infrared photography, only deepens the enigma. The more we study it, the more questions emerge. How did the image form without pigment or brushwork? Why does it correspond so closely with historical descriptions of crucifixion? And if the shroud is indeed centuries older than carbon dating suggests, what does that imply about its journey through history and the hands that carried it? Standing before the shroud, even in photographs or replicas, one is confronted with both human achievement and the unknowable. The cloth is fragile yet resilient, ordinary in material yet extraordinary in impression. It is a mirror of human curiosity, a quiet invitation to explore, to question and to wonder. Each thread, each shadow seems to whisper across centuries, drawing observers into a dialogue with the past, with the P. And so, as we trace the threads of history and examine the shroud's delicate weave, we are left with the enduring question: what is the true origin of this enigmatic cloth? What secrets, if any, remain imprinted within its fibres, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to look closely enough to let history speak through its silent spectral image? The Shroud of Turin endures, a testament to mystery, faith, and the timeless human impulse to seek understanding where certainty may never be granted. And as the Shroud of Turin fades into the annals of history, its enigmatic image lingering in our minds, our journey now shifts across seas and centuries to a document that has perplexed geographers, historians, and explorers alike. The Piri Reis map was drawn with remarkable precision on a piece of aged parchment in 1513. This map depicts the coasts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with astonishing detail, a feat remarkable for an era when much of the world's geography remained uncharted and unknown. The Piri Reis map was created by the Ottoman admiral and choreographer Piri Reis, who compiled his work from a variety of sources, including naval charts, explorers' reports, and possibly even ancient now-lost maps. Its coasts are rendered with startling accuracy, the contours of South America and the Caribbean, islands scattered across the Atlantic, and coastlines that were not formally documented until decades later. Scholars marvel not only at its detail, but at the very act of compilation, which required access to knowledge spanning continents, languages, and centuries. Mainstream scholarship views the map as a product of meticulous research and the aggregation of available charts combined with Piri Reis's own expertise as a navigator. He cites sources from Portuguese, Spanish, and other maritime explorations, acknowledging the use of older maps that may have included knowledge passed down from previous generations of sailors. Even so, certain aspects remain puzzling. Some lines and coastlines suggest a familiarity with areas that Europeans had not officially reached, raising questions about the transmission of geographic knowledge in the early 16th century. The map's depiction of the South American coast, particularly its southern reaches, has prompted both admiration and debate. For its time, the accuracy is extraordinary, yet some details seem inexplicable. Coastlines appear aligned in ways that would be difficult to chart with the technology of the era, and certain islands and formations remain unidentified or inconsistent with modern geography. Could these elements be errors, interpretations, or indications of lost sources that provided knowledge beyond conventional historical records? Even more provocative is the portion of the map that some believe depicts the Antarctic coastline long before the continent was officially discovered. While mainstream historians interpret this as a misrepresentation or a projection error, others suggest the possibility that ancient mariners equipped with knowledge now lost to history may have traversed regions previously thought inaccessible. Could the Piri Reis have had access to charts compiled from civilizations predating recorded exploration? Or were these depictions simply imaginative interpretations based on fragmentary reports? The map has fueled speculation not only about early navigation, but about the persistence of ancient knowledge. Its annotations reference earlier maps, some allegedly derived from the time of Alexander the Great or other distant eras. Piri Reis himself remarked on the variety of sources, yet the exact origins remain elusive. How did information travel across centuries, continents, and cultures, eventually converging on a single parchment that would survive wars, fires, and centuries of neglect. Scientific and cartographic analysis has attempted to reconcile the Piri Reis map with modern geography. Comparisons with satellite images, longitude and latitude projections, and ancient shorelines to reveal astonishing coincidences, yet leave gaps and inconsistencies unexplained. Some researchers suggest that shifts in coastlines due to rising seas and geological activity might account for anomalies, while others propose that a yet undiscovered system of knowledge guided ancient explorers to map regions with precision long before conventional records. The fascination with the Piri Reis map extends beyond technical detail. It symbolises the interplay of human curiosity, ambition, and the relentless desire to chart the unknown. It embodies both the limits and the possibilities of knowledge, what was known, what was lost, and what might remain hidden. Each curve of a coastline, each annotation in small, precise script offers a glimpse into a world of exploration, discovery, and mystery. And so as we examine this remarkable artifact, we are drawn into questions that have endured for over 5 centuries. How was such detailed knowledge compiled? What ancient sources now vanished informed its creation? And perhaps most tantalizing, what secrets of the world, buried in archives lost to time, or still waiting to be rediscovered, might have guided the hand of Piri Reis? The Piri Reis map, delicate and faded, remains both a document of human achievement and a testament to the enduring enigmas of history, inviting us to trace its lines, explore its mysteries, and wonder what truths about our past it may yet reveal. And as the Piri Reis map fades into history's intricate web of exploration and enigma, our journey now draws us to the shadowed corridors of power and secrecy in 17th century France, where a prisoner's face was hidden behind an unyielding iron mask, and a mystery of identity endured for centuries. The man in the iron mask, imprisoned under the reign of Louis XIII. This enigmatic figure was confined to multiple locations, the Bastille Pinole and other state prisons, always under strict supervision, always veiled in silence. His visage, obscure by a mask of iron or velvet, became a symbol of intrigue, of secrets carefully guarded, and of questions that still haunt historians today. Historical records tell us that this man's true identity was considered so dangerous that revealing it was forbidden under penalty of death. Letters, prison registers, and accounts from his jailers provide tantalizing glimpses. He was well treated compared to common prisoners granted privileges, and accompanied by guards who were instructed to maintain discretion. Yet beyond these details, his life is almost entirely undocumented. Who was he? Why was his face concealed? And what threat did he represent to the most powerful monarch in Europe? Mainstream theories suggest a number of possibilities. Some historians propose that he was a disgraced noble, perhaps a relative of the king whose existence might have complicated the royal line of succession. Others speculate he could have been a political enemy, a military officer, or a man with knowledge so sensitive that even the highest authorities feared its revelation. The mask, reportedly made of black velvet in early accounts, and later imagined as iron, became an enduring emblem of anonymity, control, and the fear of truth. Speculative and more dramatic accounts abound. Literary works, most famously by Alexander Dumas, transformed the story into a tale of intrigue and betrayal. A twin brother of Louis XIV, a secret heir hidden away to preserve dynastic power. While Dumas's narrative is fictional, it reflects the enduring fascination with the notion that the prisoner's identity could have altered the course of history. Could the man in the iron mask have been someone whose existence, if revealed, might have shifted power, sparked rebellion, or exposed political secrets that the monarchy could not allow to surface? Evidence offers tantalizing clues yet resists definitive conclusions. Some letters from the period, attributed to prison governors and royal officials, describe the prisoner's deportment, his education, and even his refinement. He spoke multiple languages, was literate, and engaged in intellectual discourse. These traits suggest a man of high birth or exceptional skill, yet none of the records clearly identify him by name. The secrecy surrounding him was absolute, enforced not only by guards but by legal edicts and the careful destruction or obfuscation of any documents that might reveal the truth. Even the mask itself contributes to the enigma. Accounts vary. Some describe an iron mask fastened with ribbons, others a velvet covering, and later retellings envision a rigid metal plate that rendered speech and expression nearly impossible. The mask was not merely a physical restraint, but a symbol of total concealment, an emblem of the fear and intrigue that surrounded him. Why was such extreme secrecy deemed necessary? What knowledge, what status, or what danger lay behind the concealed face? Modern researchers continue to analyze contemporary documents, prison logs, and correspondence to reconstruct his identity. Genealogical studies combined with forensic interpretations of portraits and descriptions have produced a range of candidates from the valet d'ogre to various members of the nobility. Yet despite decades of investigation, no consensus has emerged. Every clue seems to open new questions. Why were some aspects of his imprisonment so unusually accommodating? How did the authorities ensure that his identity remained a secret for decades, even after his death? The mystery of the man in the iron mask endures not only because of the historical ambiguity, but also because it touches on timeless themes, the tension between power and secrecy, the vulnerability of knowledge, and the length to which those in authority will go to control perception. He represents a story suspended between documented fact and imaginative possibility, a figure who exists both in the archives of history and in the collective fascination of generations as we contemplate the shadowed cells of the Bastille and the silent corridors of Pignerol. We are left with an enduring question: who was the man in the iron mask? And what secrets did he carry behind the mask that history has never lifted? Even centuries later, his identity remains hidden, a reminder that some truths may be too potent, too dangerous, or too elusive to be revealed, and that history in its silences, as much as its records, often leaves us with more questions than answers. And as the shadowed corridors of 17th century France fade into history, where a masked man's identity remained hidden for decades, our journey now turns to the vast and uncharted oceans of antiquity, where myths and geology converge to suggest the existence of a civilization lost to time, the enigmatic land of Lemuria. Long before satellites traced coastlines and sonar probed the ocean floor, sailors, naturalists and scholars speculated about lands that vanished beneath the waves, continents swallowed by the restless movement of the earth. Lemuria, as it came to be called, occupies this uncertain space between science and legend. Its story is etched in scattered references, fossils and cultural echoes across the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The concept of Lemuria emerged in the 19th century when geologists and biologists sought to explain puzzling distributions of flora and fauna across islands and the continents. Certain species of lemurs in Madagascar, for example, appeared isolated yet shared characteristics with distant lands. Early scientists hypothesized the existence of a land bridge, a now submerged continent that had once connected regions otherwise separated by vast oceans. They named it Lemuria, a nod to these very creatures. But as the theory circulated, the idea expanded beyond biology, weaving itself into the fabric of human imagination. Could an advanced civilization have thrived on this lost land? Its cities, culture, and knowledge swallowed by the tides? Historical and archaeological investigations provide tantalizing yet incomplete evidence. Ancient myths and oral traditions from island cultures often speak of great floods, sunken lands, and ancestors who arrived from distant, forgotten territories. Could these stories preserve faint memories of Lemuria? Some researchers point to architectural similarities, symbolic motifs, and linguistic echoes scattered across the Indian Ocean islands and Southeast Asia. Are these coincidences or fragments of a once unified culture whose origins have been obscured by millennia of change and oceanic submersion? Speculation naturally extends to the civilization's characteristics. Descriptions vary widely. Some portray Lemuria as a hub of spiritual knowledge, a place of advanced science and harmony with nature. Others suggest a culture of maritime prowess with cities that harnessed the ocean's resources and developed technologies lost to history. If Lemuria existed, what might have caused its disappearance? Catastrophic earthquakes, massive volcanic eruptions, or gradual tectonic shifts are plausible geological explanations, yet the swiftness and totality of its submersion remain difficult to reconcile with the fragmentary evidence. Could an entire culture, its achievements, and its people have vanished almost entirely beneath the waves, leaving only echoes in stories and scattered relics? Some fringe theories extend even further, proposing that Lemuria influenced later civilizations, seeding knowledge and culture across distant continents. Advocates of this perspective point to enigmatic megaliths, ancient scripts, and unexplained artifacts found in regions as desperate as Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and Polynesia. While mainstream scholarship regards such connections with caution, they highlight a recurring question. Could remnants of an advanced submerged culture have shaped human history in ways we are only beginning to glimpse? Geology too offers both explanation and mystery. Tectonic activity in the Indian and Pacific Oceans could in theory account for lost land masses, but no definitive underwater structures have yet been confirmed as Lemuria's remains. Advances in sonar mapping, deep-sea exploration and underwater archaeology continue to probe the ocean floor, revealing ridges, plateaus and formations that stir both scientific interest and speculative imagination. Yet the connection between these structures and a vanished civilization remains tantalizingly ambiguous. Could traces of cities, ports or roadways lie buried under kilometers of sediment waiting to be uncovered? Or is the story of Lemuria destined to remain a myth suspended between possibility and legend? Beyond physical evidence, the concept of Lemuria resonates with enduring human fascination. The idea that entire worlds might exist, flourish, and disappear without leaving a complete record, challenging our sense of history and permanence. It reminds us that the Earth's surface is not fixed, that oceans conceal more than they reveal, and that human curiosity drives us to seek answers even in the absence of certainty. Absence. As we trace the contours of the Indian Ocean, imagine its deep trenches and submerged ridges, and consider the stories passed down across centuries, we are confronted with an enduring question. What might have truly existed on the lost continent of Lemuria? Was it a civilization of remarkable insight and achievement whose memory survives only in myths and scattered traces? Or a speculative construct born of scientific curiosity and imaginative yearning? And so, as the waves lap against distant shores and sonar maps sweep the ocean floor, the mystery of Lemuria persists, a silent, sunken world that may yet hold secrets of human history and the enduring enigma of civilizations lost to time, waiting for explorers and scholars to uncover what remains hidden beneath the deep. And as the oceans conceal the mysteries of Lemuria beneath their depths, our journey now shifts to the arid landscapes of Mesopotamia, where buried among the ruins of ancient civilizations lies a small enigmatic artifact whose purpose has puzzled scholars for nearly a century. The Baghdad Battery unearthed in the 1930s near the city of Baghdad, Iraq. This modest object consists of a clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, unassuming in appearance yet suggestive of a knowledge that may have exceeded the technological conventions of its time. Dated to roughly the 1st century BC, the artifact was discovered alongside fragments of pottery and tools in a region that had been a hub of trade, innovation, and cultural exchange for millennia. Its simplicity belies its intrigue. Could this humble jar have functioned as a primitive electrical device? Mainstream archaeologists often classify it as a storage vessel, a religious object, or even a container for scrolls. Yet the peculiar arrangement of copper and iron, combined with traces of an acidic substance found in some replicas, hints at the possibility that it could generate a small electrical current. A notion that, if true, challenges our assumptions about ancient technological capabilities. Scientific experimentation has attempted to reconstruct the device. When filled with an acidic liquid such as vinegar or citrus juice, the arrangement produces a measurable voltage capable of electroplating small metallic objects. Modern researchers marvel that such a simple device could achieve this effect, sparking speculation about whether the Babylonians or their successors may have harnessed electricity in some rudimentary form. Could they have used it for electroplating decorative items, conducting rudimentary chemical experiments, or even ritualistic purposes unknown to us? Historical records, however, provide little guidance. There is no textual evidence from Mesopotamia explicitly describing electrical devices, and no direct references to electricity as we understand it. This absence of documentation deepens the mystery. Was the Baghdad Battery an isolated experiment? An accidental combination of materials or evidence of lost technological knowledge? Its existence raises larger questions about the transmission of knowledge in the ancient world. Could techniques have existed only to vanish without leaving written records? Or might the artifact reflect ingenuity that we have yet to fully comprehend? Speculative theories have flourished, suggesting more dramatic possibilities. Some fringe researchers propose that the device was part of an ancient power system, perhaps used in temples or ceremonial contexts to create luminous effects or symbolic energy. Others wonder whether similar devices existed elsewhere, lost to time, leaving only tantalizing hints in scattered artifacts and enigmatic structures. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the enduring fascination with the artifact, a simple jar that challenges our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. The Baghdad Battery also prompts reflection on the ingenuity of ancient civilizations. Mesopotamia, after all, was a cradle of innovation, the birthplace of cuneiform writing, complex irrigation, and monumental architecture. It is not entirely implausible that its inhabitants could have discovered, experimented with, or understood principles that we associate with much later periods. Could the device represent a fleeting glimpse of such knowledge preserved in clay and metal, while the surrounding records faded into history? Archaeological investigation continues, combining materials analysis, reconstruction experiments, and comparative studies with artifacts from nearby cultures. Yet each answer seems to lead to further questions. Why would such a device be made if only for practical applications that leave no trace? Was it commonplace or rare and specialized? Could it have had spiritual or symbolic significance, intertwining science with ritual in ways we cannot easily interpret? The artifact's modest size contrasts with the magnitude of the questions it evokes. A jar that fits in the palm of a hand prompts reflection on human curiosity, ingenuity, and the potential for knowledge to emerge in unexpected forms. It invites us to consider the blurred boundary between history and speculation, reminding us that some mysteries persist not because they are unsolvable, but because their context has been lost to time. As we contemplate the Baghdad Battery perched quietly among the ruins of Mesopotamia, we are drawn into the enduring enigma of ancient technology. Could this unassuming artifact represent a forgotten chapter of human innovation? Or is it simply a coincidental arrangement of materials whose secrets will remain hidden forever? The answer eludes us, leaving us to wonder what other innovations may lie buried, waiting to illuminate the ingenuity of our ancestors and challenge our understanding of history itself. And as the silent clay jars of Mesopotamia hint at forgotten experimentation and early ingenuity, our journey now moves across oceans to the lush tropical lowlands of Mesoamerica, where one of the earliest complex civilizations in the Americas emerged, leaving behind colossal stone heads and enigmatic artifacts that continue to challenge historians. The Olmec flourishing roughly between 1500 BC and 400 BC, the Olmec occupied regions of present-day Veracruz and Tabasco in southern Mexico, their society an intricate tapestry of agriculture, ritual, and monumental architecture. The landscape itself tells a story of both opportunity and constraint. Dense jungles, winding rivers, and fertile floodplains shaped a civilization intimately connected to its environment, yet also one that demanded ingenuity to thrive. It was here, among mounds of earth and stone, that themes built ceremonial centres such as San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Sotis, leaving a legacy that would echo throughout Mesoamerican history. And yet, despite the monumental evidence of their existence, so much about their origin remains obscure. Who were they from? Where did they come from? How did they develop such complex social, religious, and artistic systems so early in the history of the Americas? Mainstream archaeology suggests that the Olmec evolved locally from earlier preceramic and ceramic-using cultures, gradually developing hierarchical societies centered on trade, agriculture, and ritual. Their artistry is striking. Colossal heads carved from basalt weighing several tons, intricate jade figurines, and ceremonial masks that suggest both technical mastery and symbolic sophistication. The precision and scale of these works beg the question: how did a relatively small society transport massive stones across rivers and rugged terrain? And what motivated such monumental efforts? Speculation naturally extends beyond logistics to the cultural and spiritual significance of these artifacts. Some scholars propose that the Olmec were the mother culture of Mesoamerica, laying foundations for the Maya, Zapotec, and later civilizations. Patterns in ritual, iconography, and urban planning hint at a sophisticated worldview, one that blended cosmology, astronomy, and social hierarchy. Yet definitive evidence of their language, written records, or even precise societal structures remains elusive. Without texts to illuminate their thoughts and beliefs, we are left to interpret their world through the remnants of stone, clay, and ceremonial spaces. More speculative theories deepen the intrigue. Some researchers suggest that mech art, particularly the depictions of what appear to be figures with elongated heads or unusual physio, may hint at cross-cultural contact, genetic anomalies, or symbolic representation of authority and divinity. Could these features reflect social hierarchy, religious practices, or even mythological beings from mech cosmology? Other theories suggest a possible seafaring connection with distant regions of the Americas. Although evidence for such contact is tentative and debated, geography itself adds to the mystery. Themes inhabited regions prone to flooding and seismic activity, yet they built enduring ceremonial centres and transported immense basalt blocks from distant quarries. How did they organise labour, coordinate large-scale construction and sustain complex trade networks without the wheel or domesticated draft animals? Some propose that the mech's innovations in hydraulics, agriculture and urban design were far ahead of their time, yet the exact methods remain unknown. Artefacts such as rubber balls, jade masks, and the colossal head suggest ritual significance intertwined with daily life. But the precise meanings have been lost to time. Why did the mechs prioritise monumental art over written documentation if they had the capacity for sophisticated symbolic expression? Could the emphasis on visual and ceremonial language indicate a society in which memory, oral tradition, and ritual authority preserved knowledge across generations? Despite extensive study, fundamental questions remain. The origins of the Olm, whether as an autonomous culture, a fusion of migrating groups, or the culmination of multiple influences, remain unresolved. Each discovery deepens the mystery rather than resolving it, inviting us to imagine the lives, beliefs, and aspirations of a people whose footprints, though monumental, are tantalizingly incomplete. As we trace the rivers and ceremonial centers of southern Mexico, standing before the massive basalt heads that gaze across centuries, we are reminded that history is often preserved in fragments, in stone, in ritual, and in the echoes of human endeavour. The Olma challenge us to consider the ingenuity, imagination, and resilience of early civilizations, and to wonder who were these people who sculpted stone into the faces of gods and rulers, and what secrets of society, spirituality, and innovation might remain buried beneath the jungle floor, waiting for the patient observer to uncover. And as the mech shape their world with monumental stone heads and ritual centres, our journey now takes us to one of the most remote islands on Earth, Rapaui, better known as Easter Island. Here, isolated in the vast expanse of the southeastern Pacific, stand hundreds of colossal statues, the Moai, silently surveying the landscape as they have for centuries. Rising from the volcanic plains, their imposing stone faces, some over 30 feet tall, cast elongated shadows across the island's rugged terrain, hinting at a civilization both sophisticated and enigmatic. Carved from volcanic tuff, found primarily at Rano Raraku, the island's quarry, the Moai are remarkable not only for their size but for their craftsmanship. Each figure is unique with distinct facial features, proportions and postures, yet all share a haunting gaze that seems to look toward the villages or sacred sites from which they once presided. Archaeologists suggest that the statues were created by the Rapa Nui people between roughly 1100 and 600 AD, likely serving as embodiment of ancestral spirits, symbols of authority, or protective guardians over the community. Yet the methods of their construction and transport remain deeply puzzling. How did a relatively small population carve, raise and move these massive stones, sometimes over distances of several kilos without the wheel or draft animals? Traditional explanations propose log rollers, sledges and ropes, while more recent experiments suggest that the statues could have been walked upright by teams using ropes to rock them forward. Even so, the precision, coordination, and sheer labour involved imply a society with a sophisticated understanding of engineering, organisation and social cohesion. The Moai also invite reflection on the intersection of ritual and resource management. Easter Island is small, ecologically fragile, and once covered in lush palm forests that were gradually depleted. Could the construction of these statues and the massive mobilization of labor required have contributed to ecological stress, social upheaval, or eventual decline? Some scholars propose that the rise and fall of Rapa Nui civilization offers a cautionary tale about the delicate balance between cultural ambition and environmental limits, while others suggest that the islanders' resilience and adaptation demonstrate remarkable ingenuity in the face of isolation. Beyond logistics, The cultural and symbolic meanings of the Moai are profound yet enigmatic. Their elongated heads, broad noses, and deep-set eyes reflect aesthetic conventions distinct from other Polynesian cultures, suggesting a unique cosmology and social hierarchy. Many of the statues once bore puka, red scoria hats placed atop the heads, which may have signified status, ritual importance, or divine power. What motivated the Rapa Nui to create such imposing figures, some of which required decades of effort to complete? Were the Moai intended solely as memorials for revered ancestors? Or did they also serve as instruments of spiritual authority, mediating the relationship between the living and the supernatural? Speculative theories have further fueled fascination. Some suggest astronomical alignments linking the statues to solstices, lunar cycles, or celestial navigation. Although definitive evidence remains elusive, others imagine lost technologies, ancient visitors, or cultural transmissions that might explain the seemingly extraordinary capabilities of the Rapa Nui people. While many of these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the magnetic mystery of the Moai, artifacts that are at once tangible and yet elusive, commanding awe while withholding full understanding. Even the island's sudden depopulation and social transformation in the centuries following European contact add another layer of intrigue. Oral traditions speak of clan rivalries, internal conflict, and the toppling of statues, while archaeological evidence reveals shifts in settlement patterns, ceremonial practices, and resource use. Could the Moai themselves have been central to social cohesion? Or were they markers of tension and hierarchy, their creation and maintenance entwined with both spiritual devotion and political power? As we trace the pathways from the quarries of Rano-Raraku to the ceremonial platforms of Autongariki, we are struck by the enormity of human effort, ingenuity, and vision represented by the Moai. They endure as both art and enigma, silent witnesses to centuries of human life on one of the most hated islands in the world. Each figure, weathered by wind, rain, and time, embodies questions that remain unanswered. How did a small remote society achieve such monumental feats? What beliefs, skills, and traditions enabled their creation? And what might still be hidden beneath the soil, waiting to reveal further secrets? Of this extraordinary civilization, the Moai stand as eternal sentinels over Easter Island, reminding us that the past often resists easy interpretation. They challenge us to consider the intersections of culture, environment, and human ambition, leaving a lingering wonder amidst the isolation of the Pacific. What other marvels of ingenuity, faith, and artistry might humanity have achieved? And which of these secrets are still buried, waiting for the patient observer to uncover? As the Moai of Easter Island stand as silent witnesses to the ingenuity of an isolated civilization, our journey now turns across continents and centuries to the shimmering shores of the Mediterranean, to a city that once pulsed with knowledge, culture, and ambition, Alexandria. Founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, this city became a beacon of learning, home to the legendary Great Library of Alexandria, a repository of humanity's accumulated wisdom said to house hundreds of thousands of scrolls encompassing philosophy, science, mathematics, literature, and the arts. Even in its grandeur, the library evokes a sense of awe. Towering halls, endless rows of papyrus scrolls, and the quiet reverence of scholars deciphering the mysteries of the universe. Yet for all its renown, the library's fate remains one of history's most haunting enigmas. Accounts of its destruction are fragmented, contradictory, and tantalizingly vague. Was it Julius Caesar's fire during the siege of 48 BC that consumed vast portions of the collection? Or was it the gradual decline under later Roman and Byzantine rule, punctuated by neglect, censorship, and localized conflagrations? Some sources speak of Christian zealots purging pagan knowledge. Others hint at Muslim conquerors destroying the remnants centuries later. Which of these stories is true? And could the library have suffered a series of misfortunes rather than a single cataclysm? What is known is remarkable. The library was not merely a repository, but a hub of intellectual pursuit. Scholars from across the ancient world travelled to Alexandria, translating texts from Greek, Egyptian, Babylonian, and Indian traditions, creating an unprecedented synthesis of knowledge. Here Euclid might have plotted the foundations of geometry. Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference, and early astronomers charted the stars with astonishing precision. The library embodied the human quest to understand the cosmos, to grasp both the practical and the metaphysical, and to preserve such understanding for generations yet unborn. Yet the very scale of this endeavour raises questions. How could such an ambitious project be sustained over centuries without meticulous cataloguing, redundancy, and a protection against decay and fire? Papyrus, the primary medium of record, is inherently fragile. Could it be that nature, the inevitable wear of humidity, rodents, and time, claimed the bulk of the library's treasures long before any conqueror's torch? Or might deliberate acts of destruction driven by politics, religion, or fear of knowledge have erased works that might have transformed human history had they survived? Speculative theories abound, and some are striking in their audacity. Some suggest that lost scrolls contained scientific knowledge far ahead of their time, descriptions of machinery, astronomical observations, or even proto-electric devices, glimpses of technological understanding that predated their supposed rediscovery by centuries. Others propose that literary and philosophical works from the East, India, Mesopotamia and beyond were preserved only in Alexandria, and their loss created gaps in the historical record that can never be reconstructed. How different would our understanding of medicine, mathematics, or philosophy be if even a fraction of these texts had survived? The imagery of fire sweeping through halls lined with scrolls evokes both tragedy and fascination. One can almost see scholars desperately carrying precious manuscripts to safety, only to be stopped by chaos, smoke and heat. Or perhaps the library's disappearance was more insidious. Neglected corridors where dust and time silently consumed the works, leaving no trace except the memory of those who once walked among them. In either scenario, the destruction, whether sudden or gradual, represents a rupture in human knowledge, a loss whose magnitude is impossible to quantify. Even the precise location of the library adds to the mystery. Some believe it was part of the royal palace complex near the harbour. Others suggest multiple annexes scattered across the city. Could there still be remnants buried beneath Alexandria's modern streets, waiting to reveal fragments of wisdom long thought vanished? Archaeological efforts have yet to yield definitive evidence, leaving the possibility tantalizingly open. The story of the Great Library of Alexandria is not merely one of loss, but of ambition, of humanity's relentless pursuit of understanding. It reminds us that knowledge is fragile, yet its pursuit is enduring. Each unanswered question about its size, contents, methods, and ultimate fate invites us to reflect on the impermanence of even the grandest human achievements. Human. As we imagine the corridors of scrolls, the whispered debates of scholars, and the luminous ideas that once filled the air, we are left with a haunting wonder. What wisdom might have been lost forever in the ashes, and which secrets of the ancient world are still hidden, waiting for those bold enough to uncover them? The Great Library remains both a monument to human curiosity and a silent challenge to generations across time, to seek, to preserve, and to never cease asking the questions that define our search for understanding. As we step away from the grandeur and tragic loss of Alexandria's legendary library, we now turn our attention to a far more enigmatic artifact from the Roman world, an object small in size but monumental in mystery, the Roman nerves. Dodecahedron. These 12-sided hollow bronze or stone objects dating from roughly the 2nd to 4th centuries AD have been unearthed across Europe from Gaul to Britain, often in the vicinity of Roman forts, villas or settlements. Their surfaces are smooth and carefully crafted. Each pentagonal face is pierced by a circular hole varying in diameter from a few cm to over a dozen. Some are adorned with knobs at the vertices, others remain elegantly unadorned, yet all share an unmistakable geometric precision that commands curiosity. Despite the number of surviving specimens, over 100 have been catalogued. The purpose of the Roman dodecahedron remains an enduring puzzle. Ancient texts make no mention of them, leaving modern scholars to speculate about their function. Were they practical tools, ceremonial objects, or symbolic artifacts? Some suggest they may have served as candlestick holders, their hollow interiors perfectly suited to accommodate a small flame. Others propose they were measuring instruments, perhaps used in surveying land or calibrating distances in military campaigns. Yet no concrete evidence exists to confirm these theories, and their small size and careful craftsmanship suggest a significance beyond mere utility. Theories grow even more fascinating when we consider the patterns of their discovery. Many dodecahedrons have been found near boundaries of Roman territories, sometimes in conjunction with coins, pottery, or other domestic items. Could they have been used for divination or as talismans? Objects of ritual significance designed to bring luck, protection, or favour to their owners? The symmetry of the 12 faces combined with the variety of hole sizes has led some researchers to speculate that they were astronomical devices possibly used to predict celestial events, alignments, or agricultural cycles. Could Roman engineers, often celebrated for their ingenuity in aqueducts, roads, and military technology, have created instruments whose function is now lost to history? Adding to the intrigue is the uniformity and variation observed in their design. While all dodecahedrons share the 12-sided form, the hole's diameters differ, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, and the size of the knobs varies as well. If they were tools, why was such variability allowed? If they were symbolic, why adopt a consistent geometric shape across vast distances of the empire? Could each piece have carried a localized meaning, perhaps serving as a marker of rank, status, or regional identity while maintaining a recognizable form across Roman territories? Speculative ideas abound in the absence of definitive answers. Some have suggested that the dodecahedrons were used in textile production, for example, as gauges to measure the width of yarn or the diameter of knitting needles. An intriguing proposal that aligns with the hole's consistent circularity. Others, leaning into the more mystical, imagine them as instruments for divination, their 12 faces representing months, gods or stages of life rotated and observed in rituals to guide decisions or foretell outcomes. There is even a fringe theory that they were ancient compasses or devices for calculating water flow or architectural angles, though experimental archaeology has yet to produce conclusive demonstrations. Whatever their purpose, the dodecahedrons embody a subtle elegance that challenges our assumptions about the Roman world. They are not monumental like the Colosseum, nor utilitarian like a legionary's gladius. They are objects whose mystery lies precisely in their obscurity. Holding one might imagine the hands that cast it in bronze or carved it from stone, the craftsmen who polished each face, drilled each hole, and positioned each knob with deliberate care. Were they artisans of science, ritual, or aesthetic contemplation? Or perhaps all three at once in ways that modern understanding cannot fully grasp? Even the context of their placement hints at a broader story. Found near borders, towns, and roads, the dodecas suggest mobility, exchange, and interaction. They travelled with people, crossing the empire like silent witnesses to Roman expansion and settlement. Yet centuries later they remain silent, offering no explanation, no inscription, no guide to their meaning. They are reminders that even in a civilization renowned for documentation and engineering, some knowledge eludes the record, surviving only as an elegant geometric puzzle. As we examine the Roman dodecahedron, we confront the paradox of human ingenuity. How objects of deliberate design and care can endure through time, yet their function, significance, and story vanish. What rituals, calculations, or practical purposes once imbued these 12 faces with meaning? What lost traditions or knowledge do they hint at? And what other artifacts might lie buried, waiting to illuminate our understanding of ancient life? The dodecahedrons remain an invitation to wonder, a testament to the creative and enigmatic spirit of the Romans, and a reminder that even in the most well-documented civilizations, mystery persists. As we turn from the geometric enigma of the Roman dodecahedrons, our journey now leads us into a world cloaked in secrecy, devotion, and the shadows of medieval power. The legend of the Knights Templar treasure across the rolling landscapes of medieval Europe. From the bustling streets of Paris to the remote chapels of the Languedoc, whispers have persisted for centuries about the vast wealth and sacred relics accumulated by this enigmatic order. Founded in the early 12th century to protect pilgrims travelling to Palestine, the Knights Templar grew rapidly in influence. Their holdings expanding from humble monasteries to fortified castles, sprawling estates, and banks that prefigured modern finance. Yet the ultimate fate of their treasure remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. The Templars were renowned for their discipline, secrecy, and devotion, qualities that fueled rumours of hidden riches. Contemporary accounts describe coffers overflowing with gold, silver, and precious stones, alongside sacred artefacts allegedly brought from the Holy Land. Some historians suggest that among their hoard were relics of profound spiritual significance, a chalice, fragments of the true cross, or perhaps other objects imbued with the aura of divine power. But when King Philip IV of France, deeply indebted to the order, orchestrated the Templars' sudden arrest on October 13, 1307, much of this treasure vanished without a trace. Were these riches seized, destroyed, or concealed? The locations tied to Templar wealth deepen the mystery. In France, medieval castles and babies have long been linked to secret chambers and hidden vaults. Legends speak of tunnels beneath ancient churches, subterranean vaults beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and even caches in the remote Scottish Highlands. Could these hidden caches still survive, their presence marked only by cryptic symbols or maps long forgotten? Some researchers argue that the treasure was spirited away to Portugal, Spain, or even distant lands across the Mediterranean, transported in secrecy to preserve it from the wrath of King Philip and the Inquisition. Speculation has been further fueled by the Templars' connections to the Crusades, the Holy Grail, and esoteric knowledge. Were they simply a military order with vast material wealth, or custodians of sacred wisdom encoded in objects, manuscripts, or architectural designs? The circular churches, intricate carvings, and coded symbols found at former Templar sites have prompted some to wonder whether these were markers, subtle indicators of hidden wealth, or cryptic instructions for its discovery. Could geometry, astronomy, or numerology have guided the placement of the treasure? Or were the riches never intended to be found by outsiders, safeguarded by rituals and secrecy that transcended mere physical security? Historical documents offer tantalizing hints, yet frustratingly little certainty. Trial records, often extracted under torture, reference gold, jewels, and religious artifacts, but they also reflect the political and economic motivations of the era. The king sought to disband the order and confiscate assets, while the Pope's response oscillated between condemnation and cautious neutrality. Was the treasure captured by the crown, secreted in royal vaults, or spirited away by loyal knights anticipating the order's downfall? Some contemporary letters hint at movements of silver and sacred objects to the Mediterranean or even to England, where Templar sympathizers may have safeguarded them. Over the 4 centuries, countless treasure hunters, archaeologists, and writers have pursued the legend. From mysterious caves in southern France to isolated islands off the European coast, artifacts have been discovered. Coins, chalices, medieval manuscripts, but none conclusively tied to the Templar hoard. The line between history and myth blurs. Was there a single concentrated treasure? Or did the Templar treasure represent a dispersed network of wealth, knowledge, and influence too diffuse to ever recover as a whole? The allure of the Templar treasure persists because it embodies a convergence of human fascination, wealth, secrecy, faith, and the unknown. The very act of imagining hidden vaults beneath centuries-old stones, of picturing knights guarding sacred relics in silence, taps into a deep curiosity about history's hidden layers. Could the treasure have been spiritual rather than material? An allegory encoded in their rituals and teachings? Or was it a tangible fortune spirited away by those who foresaw the collapse of an order and the dangers that awaited them? Whatever the truth, the mystery remains tantalizingly unresolved. Each discovery, each theory, each whispered rumor hints at a world that existed at the intersection of devotion, strategy, and secrecy. A world only partially illuminated by surviving records. The Knights Templar in life and legend exemplify the enduring human fascination with the hidden, the sacred, and the lost. And so, as we peer into the shadows of medieval Europe, we are left to wonder, where did their treasure truly go? And what other secrets hidden by time and circumstance still await discovery in the silent vaults of history? As the shadow of history stretches across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, one vessel emerges from the mist of maritime legend, the Mary Celeste. Picture a cold grey morning in December of 1872. Waves lap gently against the hull of a ship, drifting silently, its sails taut yet unmanned, its decks eerily pristine. To the casual observer, she appeared as any other merchant brigantine. But to those who approached, an unsettling truth became apparent. Mary Celeste was utterly abandoned. Her crew had vanished without a trace, leaving behind cargo, personal belongings, and even a meal half prepared. The ship, seaworthy and intact, seemed to float as a ghost, a vessel suspended between worlds, carrying questions heavier than the Atlantic winds. Originally launched in 1861, the Mary Celeste had a reputation as a reliable merchant ship, travelling regularly between New York and European ports with a crew of competent sailors. On her final voyage, she departed New York bound for Genoa, laden with 7001 barrels of denatured alcohol. Captain Benjamin Briggs, a seasoned seafarer, commanded the ship alongside his wife, young daughter, and a crew of 7 experienced men. All were accounted for at departure, and the ship sailed into the open ocean under clear skies. Yet weeks later, she was discovered drifting near the Azores by the De Gratia, another vessel en route across the Atlantic. The scene that greeted the crew of the De Gratia was as perplexing as it was haunting. The Mary Celeste was in perfect condition, no signs of struggle, no evidence of storm damage, no overturned lifeboats, no message in a bottle left as a clue. The logbook found in order provided routine entries but ended abruptly 9 days before discovery, as if someone had paused the narrative of life aboard. Even more confounding, the ship's personal belongings were untouched. Clothing, navigation instruments and valuables remained where they had been placed. The alcohol cargo, remarkably, was largely undisturbed despite its volatile nature. What could have compelled the crew to abandon a ship in such pristine condition, leaving their lives behind without explanation? Numerous theories have sought to unravel the enigma. Some maritime historians propose that a sudden chemical reaction among the alcohol barrels may have produced toxic fumes, prompting the crew to flee temporarily. Others suggest that rogue waves or waterspouts created panic, a fleeting threat that appeared real enough to warrant abandoning ship. More speculative ideas explore mutiny, piracy, or even encounters with sea monsters. The latter stories feed the imagination more than historical evidence. Yet no physical evidence has ever decisively supported any one theory. Mary Celeste offers no answers, only the echo of questions carried in the wind. Further layers of intrigue emerge when considering the psychological dimensions. Could fear itself have driven the crew to leave, convinced by invisible threats or the suggestion of imminent doom? Maritime folklore of the 19th century often depicted the sea as a realm of ghosts, sirens, and unexplained phenomena where intuition and superstition weighed as heavily as skill and experience. Captain Briggs, known for his rationality, would seem an unlikely participant in such a flight, but rationality can falter under conditions of perceived danger. Were there fleeting signs of a natural disaster? A rogue wave on the horizon? A sudden leak? A mysterious sound from the hold that prompted an instinctive decision? Over the years, additional mysteries have only deepened the allure. Some accounts note small anomalies, slight damage to the lifeboat, missing navigational instruments, or subtle discrepancies in the ship's provisions. These minor clues have sparked decades of debate with amateur investigators, writers, and thrill-seekers positing ever wilder scenarios: alien abductions, spontaneous mass hallucinations, or secret experiments. Each theory, while tantalizing, remains unverified, highlighting a singular truth. Mary Celeste defies explanation, straddling the boundary between historical fact and enduring legend. Today, the story of the Mary Celeste endures not merely because of the disappearance itself, but because of the questions it raises about human behavior, the ocean's unpredictability, and the fragile interface between knowledge and mystery. The vessel has become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that even in the age of recorded history, there remain corners of our world that resist understanding. When we contemplate her ghostly voyage across the Atlantic, we confront the limits of observation, inference, and reason. What compelled those souls to leave? Where did they go? And could the answers, like the drifting ship itself, remain forever beyond reach? Ever. As the Mary Celeste continues to sail through the annals of maritime lore, her silent decks remind us that history is not only a record of what happened, but also a canvas for wonder, speculation, and the timeless human fascination with the inexplicable. In her wake, the ocean carries questions as vast as the horizon, questions that invite us to look, to ponder, and to imagine what secrets might still be hidden in the